Boys ready?
She was born ready.
Hey, relax.
All right. Thanks.
You watch it.
So we'll call the meeting to order, and we stand for the Gary, you want to lead us?
Ready to salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God, thank you for this day. God, thank you that we can come together and do the county business here. God, that you would just give each and every one of us the wisdom that we need to take care of this. And God, that your hand would be upon each and every one of our staff members. God, that you would just guide them and direct them and just keep them safe and throughout the day, God, and bring them back home safely to their families. And I pray this in the wonderful name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
We had no closed session today. So, number 2, agenda approval, additions or deletions?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Supervisor Bridges, second by Supervisor Scanlon. Anybody from the public want to comment on it? Seeing none, we'll bring it back up here for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, is there any public comment for items that are not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll close that public comment. Unagendized reports by board members. Jason, you want to start us off?
Sure. Last Wednesday, James the Aussie and I got the 2 rooms ready for USDA inspection to further our South County food distribution with Doyle Seniors. I met with the solar project guy. This guy's proposing 20 megawatts with battery energy storage systems that will help with Elmud's energy resilience. Met with Nick Dominguez, and he'll be meeting with the planning department soon. Last night we attended the Doyle Firewise meeting. We're getting our hours together to keep our Firewise certifications. This Saturday is Hurlong football first home game. This will be the 4th year I'm calling the game in the booth, and coming from undefeated season last year to a bunch of 9th and 10th graders. Westwood just gave us a black eye in the scrimmage last week, so it's going to be a rough year for the Hurlong Vikings, but hopefully we'll end up doing okay. Over the weekend, I attended the end of the year Lavender Festival out at the Wisers, and it was nice to see Howling Dog Ranch and everybody out there as well. Even in the pouring down rain, it was good to see over 200 people in the community support that event. So that was nice. Last Thursday, I attended the FCI Hurlong Community Breakfast. It was nice to see the LCOE always in attendance of all the good stuff. They send out their rock stars to all the events. So that was a good breakfast. Tomorrow night, we're going to have our CR Alliance meeting, and the runway guys are flying in, and they're going to have a good presentation on the 757 Boeing restoration project. Also, the the Hemp Hill fundraiser. Over the weekend, I picked up 83 pounds of tri-tips, and Fran, Nancy, and Jeff have done so much for the community. The least we could do is rally behind it. September 6th, we're gonna be doing a tri-tip drive-through fundraiser. Chief Jimmy Arubru is gonna make his award-winning Alley Cat chili. And just, they did have insurance, but a perfect example of where they're gonna have their shortfalls is Nancy's 2012 SUV. Insurance isn't gonna pay much for that. They're gonna have to replace that amongst a bunch of other things that insurance does not cover. So please, mark your calendars, September 6th. We'll be out there, and hopefully we can sell 300 plates. Thanks, Tom.
First off, I'd like to start off by adjourning the meeting today in memory of Gerda Elsie. She was my secretary at the high school way back in the day. Anyway, she passed away, so anyway, I'd like to get down there. You know, I had a thought, you know, Susanville Ranch Park, you know, we're very well known for our biking trails and our hiking trails. And I think we can coordinate that with CAL FIRE and Forest Service and BLM for the fire trails and fire breaks. And I think there might be a good opportunity to work with that there to maybe coordinate and get some more money to do some of that stuff in conjunction with the other agencies to help protect those capital. It's just a lot of idea that I had it, maybe to run that upstairs. See if there's any opportunities for that as we move forward. Let's see, also, the USDA, they extended the comment period for the restructuring of the Forest Service. They're looking to get rid of the Region 6, and so the western region would be based out of Utah. So instead of, you know, Vacaville would be in Utah, the whole western region. That could maybe even be in Colorado, who knows. So they're looking at restructuring, so we might want to put a letter together on that, with some of our concerns, whether we have and our frustrations we have with the Forest Service. So might be an opportunity there, as they're looking at restructure that. Last week I attended the Modoc District Fair up in Cedarville. The kids showed their fair animals up there. It was a nice little fair. And then of course this weekend, Cedar Mountain Fair over in MacArthur. So if anybody wants to go to those, they can go to that. And I want to welcome all the kids back to school. And just be careful if you're driving around the streets, you know, with kids going to school and coming home from school, just be aware of them. And other than that, I think that's about all I have.
All right, thank you. Mr. Allen?
Sure. Last Tuesday, I attended a Honey Lake Valley Recreation Authority meeting, pool meeting, and kind of business as usual there. And then the following Wednesday, the 20th, I attended the Lassen County Sheriff's military equipment display and discovered that in the last 4 or 5 years, the only people that have attended have been from this board. The public doesn't have a whole lot of interest in it, although my kids did very much enjoy climbing through the MRAP and all that. But anyway, I also attended on the following Thursday the Fish and Game Commission, and I met with prospective fair board members on Friday the 22nd. I met with Clear Creek Community Service District members regarding some serious issues they're having, and that was it. Thank you.
Thanks. Here.
Okay, let's see, on the 21st, I attended the public health prioritizing process for the 2025 community health assessment. There's probably about 50, 55 people there altogether. It was a pretty interesting meeting. On the 25th, which was yesterday, I attended the first 5 meeting, and everything's going very well there. Tomorrow I leave for Anderson. The next day I have a Nortec Board of Directors meeting. And let's see, I go back for another Nortec meeting September 5th. And that's for the executive committee. So that's about it.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I also attended the pool meeting last week, and we're still taking applications for the general public.
Citizen representative.
Citizen representative, thank you. And so, if anybody's interested in holding on that seat. We're still, taking, applications, and so, and that was all that I have.
How long is that term for?
It will, well, I believe it's for 2 more years. But, if you called, Mr. Godwin, you would get that for sure, but that's what my memory serves.
You better call quick, he's just about out the door.
Yeah, yes. Yes, and we're, you know, the city's losing, Bob, he's getting to go into retirement life, and, so, you know, it's going to be, a big loss for this community. He's served, the city and county residents well. We're going to move on to F1. And, so, on that one there, I thought that, that for the vacancies that were in District 5, that we were going to wait until September 9th is what I remember us voting on. And so, I just don't know if,
That was,
you know.
that was a request of.
yeah.
Jason, I guess, you know.
And we all, and there was 5 of us, and we voted 5,
3-2.
3-2.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, we don't have to wait that long.
Okay. If the board's happy with, moving on, then I'm happy that we're doing it.
Right on.
And so is Mr.
Thank you, sir.
Turner. Okay, so,
Well, I've got 2 nominees that I'd like to put forward to the board as well. I think you guys got the applications probably this morning, or these are guys that I know very well. Lonnie Mahensky is one of them. He's been on the fair board in the past. He's also removed himself from the board and then still volunteered at the fair, helping Jim Olcott when he was there. He's a hard-working man. His knowledge of how all that stuff operates would be a real asset to the Fair Advisory Board. And then another man, Jerry Sandall, is a good friend of Lonnie Mahensky's, but also a good friend to me. And I know him very well, and so I know these guys would both work well together and work well with the existing board. And so I think that they'd be a definite asset to the entire program. And they both volunteer for stuff in the community, in our church, and spend a lot of time just really giving of themselves. And so they would go into the job with a spirit of volunteerism and not looking for anything in return. You know, they just want to help and improve our community in general, but also improve the fair. And so I think that Bill would be just blown away when he sees these guys in action. So,
Awesome.
anyway, so I put forward those 2 names, Lonnie Mahensky and Jerry Sandall.
Do you have 2 open seats?
Yes. I'm hoping to fix that today.
I know one of the guys real well, and that's Lonnie. And you're very fortunate to have him on your, as your appointee. He's quite a man, so. He's been on the fair board numerous years. I've known him as a friend, very talented and very dedicated, so good job.
Do I need to make a separate motion for each of them, or can I just do them both at one time?
And I would second this. I've worked on it with Lonnie over the fair over the years, back when he was on the fair advisory board, like I say, he's just awesome.
Amen. Well, I make a motion then, I don't know.
You already have, and he
Yeah,
seconded
he
the
seconded.
nomination, so.
Okay. So, so the other two applicants, do we
We'll talk about
separately?
that.
Okay, got it.
By public
Okay,
nomination.
I have a motion made by Supervisor Scanlon, a second by Supervisor Alba. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment? Okay, seeing none, I will bring it back up here, and when I was on the fair board, I worked with Lonnie, and he knows exactly what he's getting back into. And so he's very knowledgeable and a good man. And I also worked with, I've worked with Jerry at the prison and on different projects, and I can't say enough about him too. So with that, all those in favor of those two applicants,
Aye.
Aye.
opposed? Okay,
Now, Mr. Chair, before we go any further, we have a couple more applicants for District 5. And I would like to nominate Morgan Wimple. You know, I called her last year and I said, will Wimple's Pumpkin Patch be willing to come down to Horticulture Day and plant some pumpkin seeds with all the 4-H kids? And she didn't even blink. They came right in, jumped right in, and everybody knows how instrumental Wimple's Pumpkin Patch is for District 5 and all of Lassen County as well. I give him my word to the best fair board pick in my opinion, Tim Ocho Torina, that I would keep that seat vacant for a while, and I don't think he's coming back. So, you know, at this point, I would like to nominate Morgan Whipple for the District 5 and fair board vacancy.
I'll second that.
okay, motion made by Supervisor Ingram and second by Supervisor Bridges. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment on that? Okay. I'll bring it back up here and,
One thing before we get going.
yes,
You know, it is, thank you, Morgan, again for being here. And Bill, if you can reach out to the other ones to remind everybody that the next meeting is gonna be September 9th, so that they can be there and
Absolutely.
have your full forum.
Thank you.
That's it.
okay. And once again, I have known Morgan since she was little. And she's grown up into a very great woman. And so I think that she's going to be a great asset to the fair.
Absolutely.
So, all those in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, congratulations, guys.
Okay, we are going to move to G. And is there anybody?
I'd like to pull 3.
Number 3,
Yes, sir.
okay.
Pass the ballots.
Second.
Okay, so we got, what? No, I got my question answered, double check. Okay, so I have a motion on the floor
I second that.
to, do the balance, to do the balance.
Yeah, so one.
Okay. Supervisor Alba made that motion, Supervisor Bridges seconded. Is there anybody from the public who wanna comment on it? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back up here for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Can I ask that you speak up louder? We cannot hear you, you're not
Yes.
using your mics.
Okay, is this a loud enough voice?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
You got it. All right, Mr. Ingram.
Yes, sir. Only reason I pulled G3, just a while back, the Allied for Workforce Development folks came and did a presentation and they offered to help pay for some of our Class 8 drivers training. So I'm just curious if they have a role in that or not.
The answer is no.
The answer's no. Okay.
We checked in with them and didn't get a lot of responsiveness to that, so, I had one of our folks check in on it, just to see if that was something we could tap into, so.
Right, I just remember them presenting to the board that they
So
would
we did
help,
follow
and
up
then
on
we
that,
checked,
yeah.
and then they don't help. So. All right, I just wanted to know, just wanted to see. Thanks, Joe.
What's the expense and time frame now to get a Class A?
The what time frame?
The expense and the time frame to go through the school and training, to get a commercial license now?
So you have to get your initial permit, that's on the permittee to do that through the DMV. We try to get them, some training, while they're with us before they go to the school and stuff. So the school, the pricing is in the board packet for that. And it's about 3 days, for them to go through that class. So it's a short version. If we just sent them to the class, it would be longer if we didn't get some of the training in-house with them. So they do 2 days of classroom bookwork stuff and some driving, and then the third day they take their test. And it's roughly $3,500 to $4,000, depending on, room and board as well. So we have to put them up and ready.
And what's to stop somebody from going through this and getting their Class A and then just jumping ship and taking our money and going elsewhere to pay?
Nothing, and I believe if you recall our solid waste discussion a while ago, we put one of our employees through that process as well. There is nothing to stop them. It's no different than the county putting an employee through post-training and then deciding to go work for another agency. So it's at our risk. But that's where we're at.
One more question. Can this guy speak English and read English so we're not?
Don't let me answer that. Okay. Is there any other questions? Okay, we need a motion.
I move that we authorize the travel, lodging, and training expense for a road equipment operator to attend Jiffy's Truck School.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made by Supervisor Alba, second by Supervisor Ingram. Is there anybody from the public that wants to comment on this? Seeing none, we'll bring it back up here for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And shake our head all day long.
Okay, we are going to move on to H1. Auditor, controller, tax collector. Nancy.
Good morning, board, gentlemen, and Maureen, Michelle. I have given you my attachment of some of the things that I would like to go over this morning, since I am announcing my retirement as of October 31st, 2025. And in doing such, I wanted to give an update of where the office has been, where we're going, and where it needs to continue to get to. So the first thing in the packet is I just printed the newspaper article from the Lassen County Times. It's just a really good, quick look at all of the grand jury's recommendations and all of that. It just does a quick reference for everybody if you would like that. And then moving right on, when the grand jury report came, I don't remember this going in a public session because I don't remember coming and talking to you guys about it and about the changes in the auditor's office. The report of the Audit and Finance Committee on the matters of the Auditor Controller's Office. So I kind of wanted just to go through that with you today because I think it says a lot about what's happened in that office and where we are today. So if I could go through my presentation and then take questions. And Patty, I asked Patty Gunderson, Superintendent of Schools, also to come as part of my presentation and explain to the board how the offices affect the schools as well.
Which document are we looking
Oh, sorry, the grand jury report now.
at? Okay, thank you.
And it starts for the auditors. I gave you the entire report, but on page 25 is where the report of the Audit and Finance Committee on matters of the Lassen County Auditor begins. And I just thought for general history, I would read this page to you because everybody always tells me we don't really know what you do. And this page gives a very good definition of what those two offices do. The Office of the Lassen County Auditor Controller has experienced a series of setbacks. First, the transition of the Lassen County's electronic payroll system was not handled well upon retirement of the incumbent auditor controllers, resulting in incorrect employee paychecks, missed Internal Revenue Service payroll tax payments, and incorrect deductions of the California State Public Employees Retirement System, CalPERS. Following this, the countywide election of 2023 left the office of the auditor. Oh, I'm sorry. I see Sam looking at me. When my office copied it, they did front and back. Did I not copy it? Was it not copied right?
I've got it.
You got it?
I've got it also. You gotta scroll to find the pages.
Okay, sorry. Following this, the countywide election of 2023 left the office of the Auditor Controller vacant. This left the office in free fall and caused impulsive actions by the Lassen County Board of Supervisors in an attempt to right the ship. The Board of Supervisors attempted unsuccessfully to attract a qualified person to appoint to the office. The Board of Supervisors then acted to combine the Auditor Controller's Office with the Treasurer's Office, which is currently operating effectively. Ms. Cardenas does plan to retire after her term expires in December of 2026. The Board of Supervisors also placed the question of combining the two offices and appointing the previous elected Auditor, Controller, Treasurer, Tax Collector as a Finance Director. The plan proved very unpopular with Lassen County voters, and during this past 2024 election held in March, so the Board of Supervisors took the voters' advisory and will mandate the separation of the combined offices in January 2027 after the election in June 2026. And then background. In Lassen County, the Auditor Controller is an independent, nonpartisan elected office established to provide various accounting and property tax administration services to the county, special districts, schools, and cities. The Auditor Controller is also required to conduct an annual external audit of Lassen County and its special districts. Like most other California general law counties, Lassen County has combined the Office of the Auditor with the Office of the County Controller. As such, a California County Auditor Controller serves as the Chief Accounting Officer of the county. The County Treasurer's Office serves as a depository for all of the funds belonging to the county, schools, and other special districts within each county. The Treasurer receives deposits and manages investments for county funds generated from taxes, fees, grants, and bond proceeds. In addition, the Treasurer is the principal in the issuance of county debt obligation and contracts that support a variety of construction projects and other county financing needs. In Lassen County, as in most California counties, the office of the treasurer is combined with the office of the tax collector. The tax collector's role is to administer the billing, collection, and reporting of property taxes revenues levied annually throughout California for not only the county, but also cities, schools, and special districts. And as with the auditor controller, the Lassen County Treasurer Tax Collector's Office is an independent, nonpartisan elected office. And then on page 26, there was only one sentence that I wanted to read under the discussion, and it says, "Public office is a public trust. Elected officials serve the people." And I just wanted to point out that I truly and wholeheartedly believe in that elected officials serve the people. Then if we go on to page 27, I thought I would just go over some of the succession problems that occurred in the auditor's office to put us to where we are today. In 2014, Diana Wemple wins the election for the Lassen County Auditor. In June 2018, as the incumbent, Diana Wemple wins re-election as the county auditor, and she runs unopposed. Myself also won re-election to the office of Treasurer Tax Collector and also ran unopposed. In early 2020, Diana Wemple, with 3 years remaining in her term of office, announced her retirement effective March 31st, 2020. California law does not provide for special elections for elected county level officials, but it does provide county boards of supervisors with the authority to appoint a qualified individual to the remainder of the unfilled elected term. So CAO Richard Egan and the Lassen County Board of Supervisors acted hastily to fill the vacancy. Lassen County CAO Egan advises the Board of Supervisors to interview 3 candidates for appointment to Auditor Controller at the March 10, 2020 Board of Supervisors meetings. Supervisors met 3 candidates for County Auditor Controller, and per the minutes of the March 17, 2020 Board of Supervisors meeting, during a closed session, Julie Morgan was selected as the Lassen County Auditor Controller designee by unanimous vote. I'd like to make a comment here. These interviews were held in open session at that time, and the other 2 candidates that were available for the board to choose from at that time was Taya Short, who was the accountant auditor in the auditor's office, who is now my assistant treasurer tax collector in the tax collector's office, and Lori Pierce, who is currently the assistant auditor controller, as well as Julie Morgan, who was the county's budget analyst at the time. At the 24 March 2020 Lassen County Board of Supervisors meeting, the Board of Supervisors recognized the service of Diana Wemple on her retirement effective March 31st, 2020, and the board officially announces the appointment of Julie Morgan as Lassen County Auditor Controller effective April 1st, 2020. And then if we move down, March 2022 was the application deadline for even year statewide primary election to be held June 7th, 2022. The county recorder receives no filings to run for the office of the county controller. This office would become vacant once Julie Morgan's appointed term was scheduled to run out in December of 2023. The incumbent auditor controller Morgan could not be reappointed and chose not to run. To this news, the CAO and the Board of Supervisors attempted again to find a suitable applicant for the next term by announcing the job on the county's website. Of the 2 applicants for the position, neither was found to have minimal level of experience and qualifications to serve. During the June 2022 election, there were 528 write-in votes for County Auditor Controller. The appointed County Auditor Controller Morgan continues to serve. Nancy Cardenas wins election to the office of Treasurer Tax Collector, running unopposed with 98.98%. In the countywide election of 2020, there were 8 races for 8 offices. These races attracted a total of 12 candidates, 1.5 persons running for any office on average, and the auditor's race attracting exactly 0. This situation is endemic and persistent over Lassen County history. In January 2023, newly elected county officers are sworn in. Auditor Morgan becomes ineligible to serve further and is officially removed from office. So the office of the Auditor Controller becomes vacant once again. There was no means for the people to fill the position, special elections not being possible, and no practical means for the Board of Supervisors to temporarily fill the seat. No current qualified county employee wanted to be appointed into the position for the rest of the term. Lassen CAO Egan found a solution by proposing that the Board of Supervisors act to merge the office of the Auditor Controller and Treasurer Tax Collector and appoint the incumbent Treasurer Tax Collector Nancy Cardenas to be the combined Auditor Controller Treasurer Tax Collector effective April 23rd to December 2026. Lassen Board of Supervisors adopts Resolution 23026. The resolution sets the pay grade for the new position of the Treasurer Tax Collector and Auditor Controller. The annual budget for the salary was increased by $20,000 to make up for the additional duties as Auditor Controller, but at the same time saved the county money by not paying a second full-time position from 2023 to 2026. In your packet, I have provided you with a copy of two resolutions. One was the first resolution before the election, when I was appointed in April. That was the emergency resolution, and then the other one was the one that came back after the election to the board that I am currently holding these offices under. As a follow-up to the plan, CAO Egan placed recommendations for Measure T and U before the Board of Supervisors to make the 4 county offices into a single finance department. Sorry, I gotta get to my plan. Single board appointed director of finance. All of this is permitted under the statute studied and referenced by the Audit and Finance Committee. Measures T and U, we're still on page 29, sorry. Measures T and U were placed on the ballot and were voted down by the voters in March 2024. Lassen County voters soundly defeated both measures. Measure T only had 1,457 yes votes and 5,115 no votes, and Measure U only had 1,650 yes votes and 4,700 no votes. The sense of the voters was, no, we don't want this merger, and if the offices need to be merged, we don't want the Board of Supervisors appointing the office holder. They were advisory measures, so the Board of Supervisors was still free to act. As of this writing, the Board of Supervisors has voted to break up the newly combined office in 2027 as Nancy Cardenas retires at the end of her term in December of 2026. The impacts are huge without an auditor. The county cannot run effectively without an auditor. Every county transaction begins and ends in the auditor's office. If this position is not elected, it is not serving the people of the county. If this position is appointed, they would serve the Board of Supervisors or the CAO with the risk of no transparency on the status of Lassen County funds. And then if we can go to page 30, software transition issues, AKA Tyler. On April 12, 2018, then County Auditor Controller Diana Wimple issues a request for a proposal for ERP solution and implementation services to replace obsolete and dilapidated software for financial reporting. Proposals were due by May 31st, 2018. Response proposals were received by the Board of Supervisors, Lassen County Auditor Diana Wimple, and CAO Richard Egan in early June 2018 and did not involve the IT department in the choosing of a vendor during the contracting portion of the process, nor involve IT in the transition of the new software to replace the old system. The contract for ERP solutions and implementation services is awarded to Tyler Software Solutions of Plano, Texas. The software offered to the Auditor Controller's office is called Munis. Tyler Software has 4 other contracts with the Lassen County government, 2 in the Sheriff's Office and 2 in the Office of the County Clerk. The contract includes licenses for the software, plus support in the form of training for county employees. Under the newly appointed Auditor Controller Morgan, the Munis software package proves to be difficult to use for the Auditor's office. At this point, the IT department has not been involved in the difficult software transition, and the Auditor's office was trying to manage this application on their own. Many processes had to be done by hand, paychecks became inaccurate, IRS tax payments were made late, CalPERS retirement contributions were late and or inaccurate, late charges reached $80,000, however they were later negotiated down to $10,200 for CalPERS and $17,927.50 for the IRS, and classes meant to train employees were unattended by office staff and not enforced. And then also I gave you a handout with some other things that have come to pass since I have been auditor controller, but still going back to the 2022 year. And one of them is 1095 health forms. You're gonna see a bill for $277,716.59. And this was for failure to have 1095 health forms sent out and uploaded to the IRS for the 2022 fiscal year. When we received this back in June, we immediately got on the phone with the IRS. They gave us 60 days. Our 60 days was up August 18th of 2025 to work with them to see if we could get these penalties waived. Ms. Horanik was able to work with Tyler to get these forms built, or to get these forms put into Tyler for that year, since they were never incorporated in Tyler, and never built in Tyler. So she was able to do that. We were able to work with the IRS to get the forms uploaded onto their website, and we did fiscal years 22, 23, and 24. They have received those uploads, they have approved them, but they have not gotten back to us yet whether they are going to waive these penalties. So these are things that come up that were before I was the auditor, that we're still trying to go back and the discrepancies and fix them so that the county does not have to pay fines and penalties to the IRS. Currently, we are also undergoing an IRS audit on W-9 forms that we submit to the IRS. For each form that they determine is incorrect, they can assess a $600 penalty. In 2022, the IRS implemented a W-9 database to check the accuracy of W-9s we receive in our office. The county was unaware of the database in 2022, and we were actually unaware of the database until they contacted us for this audit, and the W-9 information that was provided and submitted to the IRS was incorrect. You will see in your packet a checklist that every department has indicating what the auditor needs to fully complete a contract. I worked with county council to compile this listing. Once all of these things are checked off, the contract is deemed to be complete, and then we can go ahead and put it in the system and pay on it. Number 2 is a W-9. We are still having issues with departments providing us information for both existing and new contracts. W-9s are required to be updated if there are any changes to the name or address of vendors over the life of the contract. If we do not comply with the IRS rules, the penalties can be brutal. We have also had issues with 1099s that were mailed out in 2022. Thankfully, Ms. Horanik was able to work with Tyler on program updating for that year, and new forms were able to be uploaded to the IRS. They accepted those corrections, and all fines and penalties were waived.
Nancy, could I ask you where you're at on there, what page number you're on, please? I'm sorry.
30,
Okay,
and then I gave you some supporting documents that are in a paperclip.
thank you.
And then going back to the Tyler update, I came here, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and I gave a Tyler update, at which time Mr. Neely told me that he was very upset that all of the modules for Tyler were not up and running properly, and he told me that's what I had been hired for. So I still disagree with that, because I was hired for the auditor's office modules, and I have no control over personnel. However, Cheyenne Rural was basically appointed to be the program manager to help all of the different county offices implement Tyler and get the changes fixed. And we did hire Client First, and the board approved a contract for them for us to work on getting the program up and administered. And so one of the things that I gave you today is the original timeline of when the HCM component of Tyler was supposed to be corrected, implemented, and online. We all started this process together in October of 2023, and if everything would have gone as planned, we all would have ended it by June 30th, 2024, and Tyler would have been fully up and operational on July 1st of 2024. Also included in your packet is I asked Cheyenne to compile a list of why these meetings weren't met. And, you know, why is it that the personnel office hasn't been able to complete
Okay.
the implementation and the correction of the Tyler Munis. And so in the email that I have attached, she has gone down for every date and has given you the reason that those dates, that those meetings were not met. And so I have to tell you that one of my frustrations is that until personnel can finish their portion of correcting the human resource management portion of Tyler, we can't further implement electronic payroll in the auditor's office. We're kind of stuck. This has to be done for us to be able to move any further. Personnel is not under my purview. I do not have any clout in going and saying, you know, I want you to work on this every minute of every day. That would be under your personnel director and your admin. So with that, this and our electronic payroll system, electronic applications, all of that are on hold until this part of Tyler can be corrected and implemented for the county. Once this is done, then the auditor's office can move forward with electronic time cards. And that's important because Tyler is not a system that's meant to have people go in and hand enter anything. It's meant for me, well, I don't fill out a time card, but Michelle, to fill out her time card and submit it to her supervisor to approve it, and then go to the auditor's office to be put into the system to be paid. That is so that things can't be changed, or it's a fraud protection that Tyler offers. And so doing paper time cards still allows for inaccuracies, people entering time wrong, pay still not being paid correctly, because sometimes it comes over in the system correctly when personnel closes out and we do changes, sometimes it doesn't. And so really personnel has to finish this for that system and payroll to be complete and for us to be able to finish this conversion. It's very, very, very important. And one of the things that unfortunately I'm going to be leaving not complete in October. And then the last thing that I wanted to kind of go through with you is the audits. And I don't know if you all remember, I don't know how many of you were here, but I brought to you when I first came in, there must have been like 8 or 9 years of audits that had not been brought to the board. And I brought them to the board, and I had Price Page come in, and we tried to go through them, and we tried to explain, why this is so important to the county and to all of you. But, financial stuff is very dry, and it was a lot of information to give you guys in one meeting. But I think it needs to be said that audits going forward should always come to the board once they are completed every year. If you don't see an audit, there's a problem. And you should be asking, where's the audit? What's going on? Why haven't we received it? That didn't happen, and so now we have all of these findings that the grand jury basically came up with. I'm going to start on page 30 at the very end with fiscal year 16-17.
Nancy, are we on this document now?
No, that's the new audit. We're still back to the page 30 of the grand jury's report. Yes.
Thank you.
At the end of fiscal year 16-17, June 30th, 2017, The independent audit finds fault in the road department's accounting of federal road maintenance grants. The road department had accounted for a road construction grant as if it were cash. The effect was that the funds were not recorded when they were awarded by accrual, but when they were received, like cash. This resulted in an understatement of revenue of $678,865. The external independent auditor recommended that the county bookkeeping be done on a cash basis, or not on a cash basis, but on a modified accrual basis required by the federal government in response to the deficiencies. Then County Auditor Controller Wemple promises to work with the county road department to ensure proper accounting of federal roads and grant funding. Completion is promised for the 2017-2018 fiscal year audit. Then Auditor Controller Wemple replied to the audit by submitting a corrective action plan. And going forward, I'm just going to say CAP, and when I say CAP, that's a corrective action plan for an audit, which specified additional staff training in grants accounting for the road department. This action was deemed acceptable, and the single audit for 2018 again showed no material weaknesses. The low-risk auditee status was unchanged, and the county lost nothing other than a little staff training. The next external audit for fiscal year 18-19 revealed the onset of deep problems for the Office of the Auditor Controller. The external auditor found 2 material weaknesses in Lassen County's financial statement for that fiscal year. First, the audit uncovered the leftover previous year funding for mental health realignment, social services realignment, and public health realignment was used to cover a budget deficit, and the amounts used for this, when added to the amounts used in previous years, was building up. The auditor noted that this material weakness was due to lack of any mechanism to distinguish which funds were applicable to that purpose, and that this could lead to possible misuse of those funds. Second, the external independent auditor found that the county had failed to properly account for revenue received after it had been made available, a technical aberrance from generally accepted government accounting standards. The external auditor faulted the county's end-of-year fiscal closing process for failing to pick up the air. The result was an overstatement of $44,493 for health and social services and $1,023,043 for welfare administration funding on the county's financial statements. Deferred inflow was understated by the same amount. It must be noted here, we're on page 32. It must be noted here that any corrective action plan CAP to the annual external audit is the responsibility of the county auditor controller. The CAP contained in the publicly available single audit report is signed by Auditor Controller Julie Morgan, who assumed office on April 1st, 2020. This CAP has no date, but for the completion date specifies the next 12 months. This single audit report was therefore a wake-up call, but the county retained its status as low-risk auditee and could still be said to be in good standing. The county was, however, on notice. The downward spiral continued in the next external audit for fiscal year 19-20. Material weaknesses continued to be found and cited by the external independent auditor. In this audit, the external auditor finds 2 material weaknesses in the accounting of health and social services realignment funding and in the county's closeout procedures at the end of the fiscal year. In finding 2019-001, the external auditor cited the lack of a mechanism to separate funds earmarked for one of these 3 categories of realignment spending and recommended a review of 5 years of H&HS records to sort things out, as well as separate the 3 funding streams going forward. In finding 2019-002, the external auditor found that late arriving funds were not properly classified, and that resulted in the $44,493 in HHS and $1,023,043 in the welfare administration. Then Auditor Controller Wemple does not submit a CAP. So Diana did not have a plan to fix these. By the end of fiscal year 19-20, June 30th, 2020, the county external independent audit becomes a hot mess. External auditor notes that findings 2019-001 and 2019-002 have not been implemented. This resulted in findings 2022-001 and 2022-002. Respectively, Lassen County loses low-risk auditee status. Sometime later, then Auditor Controller Morgan submits a cap in response to findings of the external auditor. This cap promises H&HS staff will be working on this in the next 12 months, instead of projecting a completion date as required. Morgan also discovers the hot mess that is county auditing using the new Munis software. Attempts to deal ineffectively, then Auditor Controller Morgan submits a cap for finding 2020-001, projecting completion by June 2022, and for finding 2020-002 with the same verbiage. And I want to stop right here because I know that we've been talking a lot about mental health funding and that the state is coming back and asking us to prove that some of the funding that mental health got was spent correctly. We also know that we lost our legacy system, which held all of those reports. And I'm just saying, had this come back to us in 2020, we still had that system up and running. Had they had gone back and did what the external auditor asked them to do, which was balance out those H&HS accounts, we would probably be in a much better place today in dealing with that state audit that's currently going on. In their findings, the external auditors recommended creation of a year-end checklist, again, for closing the books and publishing the county financial statements, fully staffing the Auditor Controller's office by hiring more and better trained, educated, experienced staff, and providing additional training to staff with emphasis on accounting specific to governmental entities to ensure not only competency but also currency. Further, the independent external auditors noted the continuation of failure to properly account for realignment and unused funds for mental health, social services, and public health, sections of the Health and Social Services Department. Among their recommendations was that Lassen County review at least 5 years past financial activity within H&HS to determine the value of cash and investments remaining on the books there. In her cap, then Auditor Controller Morgan agreed with finding 2020-001 and indicated she had brought back our retired auditor, Diana Wimple. It doesn't say that, but that was our retired auditor that came back, was Diana Wimple, to assist and train staff. Anticipated completion was estimated to be June 2022. In response to findings 2020-002, Auditor Controller Morgan referred to discussions with H&HS Department, cited their own personal vacancies and issues, then outlined in general terms that H&HS would come up with a plan and implement it. Morgan's anticipated completion date was given as H&HS staff will be working on this in the next 12 months. And then if we go down to the bottom of page 33, end of fiscal year 21-22, June 30th, 2022, the external auditor found findings 2022-001 that employees lacked understanding of revenue recognition rules and were receiving inadequate oversight and guidance from management. Lassen County does not regain status as a low-risk auditee, and this audit identified weaknesses in the county's financial controls, which allowed for misreconciliation of accounts between the county's general ledger and subsidiary ledgers kept by several county departments. Such reconciliations are normally done multiple times each fiscal year in accordance with GAAP. Most glaringly, the ledgers were not properly reconciled at the end of the fiscal year prior to compilation of the county's financial statements. The independent auditor noted a disrupted office with many personnel and managerial changes. These add to the disruptions brought on by then exploding crisis over COVID-19 led to the perfect storm in which the Office of the Auditor Controllers capsized. And I just want to tell you that when I took over office and I went into the auditor's office, I do agree with the statement of it was a very disrupted office. They had had many personnel and many managerial changes over the years. And that was one of the things that I told the board that I would work on, is getting people back and making a cohesive team and pushing the auditor's office forward. I believe that I have done that, and I believe that the auditor's office is functioning well. And I think I told you when I was here with my Tyler update, I just can't close out this final year. And I'm hoping now you can kind of see why and what some of the problems were that have been continually reoccurring and never dealt with under the prior administrations. Further, the external auditor found finding 2020-002 errors in accounting for federal grants in schools and roads, highway planning and construction, child support enforcement, and COVID-19. The last entry amounted to $2.76 million understatement in COVID-19 aid to the county. Lassen County still does not regain low-risk oddity status. Finding 2022-001 cites lack of basic accounting knowledge and being able to recognize revenues and lack of supervision over staff. Again, the auditor recommended ongoing training and continuous education of accounting staff. Finally, finding 2022-002 puts the nail in the coffin. Schools and roads grants to counties known as Title III were overstated by $78,343. Highway planning and construction was overstated by $557,206. Child support enforcement was overstated by $312,528, and COVID-19 state and local fiscal recovery funds were understated by $2,760,000. These are all items that must be reported by schedule of expenditure of federal assistance, CFA, to all federal governments. The net understatement of countywide spending for federal aid spending of $1,811,923 would have led to problems if not flagged in this audit. Failure of a CFA to reconcile to a simple trial balance is really basic and very hard to miss, and would have been one of the then Auditor Controller Morgan's final duties as her term ended 6 months after the end of the fiscal year. And then, we're almost done, I promise, guys. At the end of fiscal year 22-23, June 30th, 2023, external single audit is unavailable. So what I gave you and what Mike or Supervisor Scanlon had held up earlier is this is finally the draft of the June 30th, 2023 audit. And part of the reason that it has taken so long to do this, which I will get into, is that we lost our auditing firm. We had to go out to RFP to find a new auditing firm. I also wanted, the auditor's office had been producing the financial statements, all of the numbers that are in these audits every year, and I wanted the outside auditors to actually find those numbers and make sure that the numbers that were given to them before in the past were accurate, and if there needed to be any change to the financials. That took some time. And it also took some time, you can read the findings in here. The findings are still the same, 9 audits later. We're still dealing with the same findings. There's some new findings that moving forward. And I think, like I've told you in the past, when you're not current on your current audits, when you're not current on your audits and they give you the findings, it's very hard to fix the findings in current time because you don't know what those findings are. And so that is why it's very important that we continue to work as diligently as we can to catch up on these audits. Also, it's really difficult. We have a lot of departments who have lost a lot of employees that have worked for the county for years. And so it's also very difficult with new employees to get everything we need for these audits as well. And they work very, very hard, and we are all working together, but it slows the process down tremendously. And I think that one of the things that, I don't know if Pete will speak to it, but being this so far behind on their audits is putting the county at risk with the federal government of losing federal funds. And we know that. But we also can't close an audit with an outside auditors until we can give them all of the documentation that they're requesting. And if I can't give them what they want, or I can't get to them what they want, they're not going to close out the audit. I think that when I come back with our current outside auditors to present this audit to you, hopefully in September before I leave, they can discuss some of the I'm gonna say pitfalls we had in getting this information. And that also has to do with not our prior auditing firm not wanting to really work with them. So it makes it, it made it a difficult audit to complete. So on February 8th, Cardenas releases an RFP for an external independent audit. Well, that came about because Price Page, who was currently under contract, January 23rd, 2024, sends us a letter that says, "Thank you for the opportunity to be of service to the County of Lassen. Over the past several years, as our firm continues to grow and develop, we have the need to consider how we can best serve our clients. Our goal is to provide timely professional service, and after careful evaluation, we do not believe we are in the best position to serve the county. Therefore, regrettably, we must sever our business relationships with the county and ask that you engage another accounting firm to provide financial statement audit services for year end June 30th, 2023 and subsequent years." That was a devastating blow because we were already behind on the audits. They pulled out. I thought they were going to call and tell me, "Oh, we're going to be here to start the audit." Instead, they called and said, "We don't want to be the county's auditors anymore." We did go out for RFP on February 8th. It takes 30 to 45 days to close an RFP. Then you have to do the contract signing, come back to the board, and then they have to schedule you in. That is also why this audit took so long to complete. Had Price Page stayed with us as the auditor and finished out their contract, I believe that we would have already been moved on to maybe even current on our audits, because we knew we were going to have to go out to RFP after the 23-24 audit was completed. At this time, the civil grand jury wishes to announce appreciation for the efforts of the current auditor, controller, treasurer, tax collector's office, and information technology section of the administration department in the transfer to new modern software. Auditor Controller Cardenas has worked diligently to get current internal controls in place with education and training for all employees in the Auditor Controller's office. Also, the IT department is working diligently with Tyler and Client First to make a deliverable of deployment of the software system to be up and running fully by July 2024. I reached my goal. The auditor's office was completely using Tyler as the main county's financial system as of July 1st, 2024. The only module that was not up and fully running and corrected was the HR module. But as far as the auditor's office went, we had gone through, we had corrected payroll, we had worked with PERS, we had worked with the unions, we had, we were on track to make this the county's software. And I don't know if you guys have any questions about the current audit, but I figured when I come back and the outside auditor is here, we can go more into detail into this audit, if that's okay with you. And then I wanted to kind of go to the findings on page 37. And I wanted to go to finding 10. The process of appointment by the Board of Supervisors for the Auditor Controller vacancy seat was unsatisfactory, given that the Office of the Auditor Controller is technically challenging and professionally demanding position. The civil grand jury has found that the appointment process in the 2020 resulted in the appointment of a candidate incapable of handling a looming software transition of a vital personnel and payroll system. And then I would also like to read finding 12 to you. County employees charged with keeping track of both county funds and state and federal dollars are sorely in need of training and professional development. And you keep seeing that as all of the findings in these audits are leading back to CFA and how to account for federal grants. Finding 13, the civil grand jury recognizes that the deficiencies noted in the external single audits for the past 8 years generally involve accounting methods required for federal grants, accrual basis, being different from the perfectly adequate method used for decades, cash basis, in the accounting of funds generally, and failures in various county departments to recognize this difference. that's kind of why we went to Tyler, is so that Gen Ledge was a cash-based system. It was built like in the 80s. It wasn't an accrual system. It was an attempt to come into compliance and start doing for the federal grants on an accrual basis. And I think moving forward, we will have less findings in regards to cash versus accrual-based accounting. Finding 14, while problems with the transition from the outdated accounting software to the new Munis software has been bumpy and wasteful, the effort has been stabilized as an on track to full implementation by July 2024. And once again, the auditor's office met that. Finding 15, the civil grand jury found no written succession plan in the office of the auditor controller. When the incumbent Wimple left the office in 2020 for retirement, there was no one to fill the void. Appointed auditor controller Morgan left in early 2023 for health reasons. Therefore, the statutory remedy of appointing a qualified office holder was only partly successful, resulting ultimately in a vacant ballot in 2022, followed by a vacant office in 2023. And I want to talk about this a little bit. So when I took over the two positions, we talked about that a lot. You know, what happens if something happens to you? Are you training someone that can run the offices? Is there going to be anybody to replace you if nobody signs up to run for these offices? Will they sign up to run for the offices? And I'm here to tell you, yes, in all of those capacities. I have been working very hard with my two assistants to make sure they understand the core operations of those two departments and that they're capable to continue to run those departments. And had I had stayed, they were going to sign up or they are still going to sign up hopefully and run for election. So am I leaving you with people that will keep the offices in good health and standing until the June 2026 election? I will tell you, yes. I believe so with all of my heart that my two assistants can continue on and keep the county functioning. Now I'd like to go to the recommendations by the grand jury on page 38. Recommendation number 9, the Board of Supervisors should develop a comprehensive written plan to find and entice qualified persons to run for office. And I don't think they're just talking about auditor controller, I think they're talking about all the elected offices. And recommendation 12, the Chief Administrative Officer should mandate annual continuing education and training for all county staff that work with or handle funds and or accounts to include management of state and federal grants, enforce attendance and test for compliance, initiate HR actions as required. The Chief Administrative Officer should routinely assure the Board of Supervisors that this is carried out. And I guess the way you would know that this is being done is when you get a copy of your current audit. If the findings go away and the CFAs are done correctly, then you know that the training has been conducted and the staff understands what needs to happen in reporting to the state and federal government. Recommendation 13, the Board of Supervisors should provide the Auditor Controller's Office with resources to hire and train a compliance auditor, trained to find compliance issues before they show up in the annual single audit. This was on my to-do list. So currently, in the auditor's office, there's only 4 staff members in there. We are going back and forth with Health and Social Services actually going over and doing training because they still do not have adequate fiscal staff over there. I think they have come and talked to you multiple times about their vacancies. And so one of my staff people, Nicole Madden, who also worked in H&HS, goes over and provides training to them for CFAs and just general fiscal accounting because they have no fiscal officers. And it would be nice if she was, if this job was created, flown, and she could apply for it, and whoever got the job to be paid for actually being a compliance auditor. And after 9 years of bad audits, we really have to do something to make sure that the information that's going to the auditor, outside auditor, is correct before it leaves the county. There needs to be one person that is completely trained that can review all of that information before it gets sent to the outside auditors. That is the only way we're gonna clean up these CFA reports and make sure that the county continues to get its funding. Recommendation 14, the civil grand jury would like to recommend that an award be given to Ms. Cardenas for her unrelenting service to the county of Lassen to get the auditor controller's office back on track and have a clean slate for the 2027 elected officials that take her place. If this transition is successful, this would call for an award for all IT employees involved in this effort as well. Well, I don't know if I will ever get an award, and it is definitely not the clean slate I had hoped to leave for whoever is incumbents of those offices for 2027. It is better than the day I walked in. Is it completely cleaned up? No. That will take a lot of time and a lot of cooperation from all county departments, admin, and the board to continue moving it forward and taking care of all of these audit findings. It is not something that the auditor's office can do by itself. The board of supervisors should direct the chief administrative officer, finding 15, I'm sorry. The board of supervisors should direct the chief administrative officer to request each elected county office to come up with a written succession plan as well as written professional development plans. These may be published in employee policies. The board of supervisors should consider the question of requiring the chief administrative officer to do similar processes for all non-elected county departments. And once again, I think we have all sat here and seen so much of our history retire and not really have a succession plan for training and transferring of their knowledge. And that has really hurt us over the years. And it will continue to hurt us if we don't have some type of succession plan, some type of training, so that if something happens to someone or they retire, when they walk out the door, they don't take everything they know with them. And that's very detrimental to the county when that happens. And the last one is R19. Future civil grand juries should visit all elected and non-elected offices for an assessment of those operations, whether good or bad. And actually, I want to say, Supervisor Ingram has kind of been asking for departments to come before this board and tell them where they're at and what's going on, and so that the board kind of has a feeling. If the board doesn't want to do that, if the grand jury offers that for you, then maybe that's the way you end up getting kind of the pulse of your departments and what the grand jury feels are the findings or the problems within those departments. So I just have my statement that I wrote to finish this off. In closing, that was why I was so shocked, hurt, and felt totally disrespected for the elected positions, both the one I was elected to and the one I chose to be appointed to, after all the hard work and effort that both the treasurer, tax collector, and auditor controller's office, as well as some very kind retired annuitants that chose to come back and help with the migration process of the new system over the last 2 years. Not only have both offices worked together to overcome past deficiencies, but also to implement and train the entire county staff, and I mean the entire county staff. We took the auditor's office, the main auditor's office, and made it a training room. We did not pay for training. My staff was trained, and then we brought each department in, and we continue to do that and provide training for the county. Implement and train the entire county staff on the new Munis system, but also to correct payroll processes, correct PERS reporting, work with the IRS to be able to be in compliance with tax codes and pass IRS audits, and hopefully not to have to pay penalties and interest, as well as staying current with daily tasks of the office. And I'm going to tell you that's a lot with 4 people. Trying to work in the past, the present, and while working with outside auditors on adopting policies and guidelines that will allow Lassen County to be low-risk auditee again in the future. I was concerned when I received a text from Mr. Anderson on Monday, July 28, 2025 at 8:29 asking me to call him. When I called him and he answered, he asked how I was doing. I told him the truth, that I had been prescribed new blood pressure medication and I was getting used to it and I was tired. To which he replied, well, that's why I'm calling you. Amanda and I am concerned about your health. The rest of my recollection of that call is in my statement of retirement. The following action since July 28, 2025 up to last week's board meeting shows me that I do not have the support of the CAO, County Council, or majority of the board. And for all those reasons, it is in the best interest of the people of Lassen County for me to retire and the offices to be split prior to the 2026 election. I have also talked with you today about succession plans, and I have specifically talked to you about my succession plan for the current offices I now hold. I have been working with and training both my Assistant Treasurer Tax Collector Taya Short and my Assistant Auditor Controller Stephanie Haranek to be able to continue carrying out the core functions of these two offices. I will say that if Ms. Haranek was not the Assistant Auditor Controller, much of the current progress in the Auditor's office would not have been made. Ms. Haranek remains a vital bridge between the old general ledger system and was essential in building the new Munis system. She also played and still plays an intricate role in correcting payroll and PERS reporting. It is my hope that the board will do the right thing with not only my two assistants, but the elected offices and the people of Lassen County, and appoint them to carry out the rest of my term. They are the only ones who truly understand where we have been and what steps need to be taken to get us where we need to be. I would also like to remind you, and I gave you the government codes for vacancies and the qualifications for the auditor and treasurer tax collector, that the government codes that I have provided state that the board shall appoint. I also know that the bank will not accept a new master signer on the account if that person has not been appointed/elected treasurer, and they also need this appointment to monitor and transfer LAIF and the investments. I would also like to remind the board what happened the last time someone was appointed to the auditor's office that did not fully understand all of the responsibilities of that office. And with that, I would like Superintendent of Schools, Mrs. Patricia Gunderson, to complete my presentation to you today on the school side of this.
So I have a letter, yes, Kathy Gunderson, Lassen County Superintendent of Schools. I do have a letter. I'm not gonna read it verbatim, you guys can read it. I just wanna recap a couple of things. So I have also worked with, the auditor and the treasurer's office for the last 11 years. When when Diana Wemple was elected, Nancy was elected, I was also elected. We've had some rocky times. And just wanna share a couple of, not really concerns, but make everybody aware of where we sit. So with Nancy's retirement, the county treasurer holds approximately $90 million of school funds. So we are your biggest account. The county schools are your biggest account in the county treasurer. Monthly, we run payroll for between 675 and 700 employees. It's approximately $2.6 million in monthly payroll warrants and vendor, that doesn't include our vendor distributions. And so with Nancy's retirement, it is urgent that someone be appointed to those positions. It takes us 30 days to update our system so that checks can be processed. So we have to have the signature 30 days prior to when we run our payroll, which actually runs the last week of September for the, which would come out in October. So it's really kind of critical that the appointments be done in a timely manner. That also being said, we have also, since, like I said, have had some rocky years, and since Nancy has taken over, we also work extremely close with Stephanie and Taya. We work with them on a daily basis. We reconcile all of our funds on a monthly basis, but we work really closely with them. The auditor's office is really supposed to be the watchdog for all of the funds that come into the county, with the treasurer, tax collector, really making sure that the funds from property taxes and stuff go to the right place. So I'm just here today to really let you know that, number one, we work extremely closely with them. We do hold majority of the funds in the county treasury at this time. I'm looking forward to making sure that we continue to have that close working relationship so that we can continue to move forward with the obligations that each of our elected offices are required to do by law. Are there any questions? Thank you.
I have to grab my water, I'm sorry. So, do you have any questions of me? I guess that's why Tom asked for this to be.
Any, you got any questions, comments?
No,
Gary?
I just have a comment.
Okay.
I'd like to thank you for bringing us up to date on all this. You've done a lot of work into that, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I think we've done a good job.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Alba?
First off, Nancy, I wanna say thank you for your years of service. You stepped into a role you didn't have to, but you volunteered for it, you've been elected, and you worked for the county for how many years, you said?
26 total.
Yeah, and it's been phenomenal, and it's very unfortunate you can't fulfill your term. I thought, you've done an excellent job for this county in all the roles that you've done. You've been a valuable piece of it, and it's gonna be a hard loss. I mean, who's hoping that, I was anyway, hoping you'd be able to fulfill your term and keep going on this, because you've come a long way in this thing. And I think every time you brought an update, you got nothing but kudos from us up here on the progress you've made for it. You brought us a long ways. I don't know, the whole grand jury thing, I mean, I appreciate what they do, but some of their findings and recommendations they have, I mean, here again, we have to have a new auditor by the 26th, we have to appoint somebody. We just got chastised in the grand jury report because it took us 4 months to get another one saying we were hasty and we didn't do it right, et cetera, et cetera. So I mean, we're caught in a no-win situation with the grand jury, and it just gripes me. I can dig all kinds of holes in their findings that they have. I mean, we don't have any say over an elected official. We don't. We can't make them do anything. And it's very hard and very difficult for us. It puts us in a bad light, and it makes us look bad because we can't do anything. It's just like when we had Tyler before, unless somebody asks for help, we can't help them. It's up to them to come to us and say, we need more money, we need more training, we need more this. And then we can allocate that for them. But until they do that, we can't do anything. And so we sat there and we fought and we struggled for how many years with the previous 2 auditors until you come along. And then we had to get other people to come in and help us. And so anyway, so here we are today. And there's hard feelings, and there's mad, and there's anger, and it's not good. And so, and now we're gonna have to start over and do the whole thing over again. But anyway, it's a big hole. It's a big hole, and it's very difficult, but hopefully we can find somebody and make an appointment by the September 26th, we keep this thing rolling. Not only for the county, but for the schools and everybody else is gonna have to go in. You know how difficult it is to find people with qualifications for an auditor. I mean, there's not very many people out there in this county that have the qualifications to be an auditor, the treasurer tax collector. So it's gonna be tough, but we'll muddle through it and get it done. And once again, I just wanna say thank you for your years of service, and appreciate it. I mean, I heard that this was coming, I was hoping that it wasn't, but maybe you'll rescind it.
I don't think so, but I do want to tell you, Aaron, you do have control over your appointed department heads and how they train their staff. And a lot of your audit findings are coming out of your appointed department heads, departments, roads. I guess the sheriff isn't appointed, but to require them to make sure that their staff is trained is a way that you can help the elected auditor to make sure that those audit findings don't occur. And the board does have control over that. And that was one of the findings from the grand jury, is that you could send them to training, what they need to understand how to account for those grants. So that is in your control.
Part of that, yes. But we can't.
And I, once again, told you that I am leaving you with 2 very qualified people that will qualify for both of those jobs. And that was my succession plan that I promised to leave you with when I took this job.
I haven't talked to him about that, but I'm sure we'll go through that process and make that determination. But thank you for your endorsement on my mess. But it does make it hard, so anyway, it's just, I just can't say thank you enough, Nancy.
So I would like to just tag on to what Nancy said about, so we have about a year left, and she is, the two people that, her two assistants are really the people that we deal with, from the schools. And so I would hope that you would look internally to those people for your appointments. It would make it a fairly quick process. They do know what they're doing, and they can continue to lead the county in a positive way. And so and again, both of those people have been in those departments. You know, they've either been there and come back, or they've been there long-term, and so they have that historical knowledge, and they know how to work with their partners outside of the county. And so I would really hope that you would look internally to possibly fill both of these positions as Nancy transfers out. And then, you know, anybody can throw their name in the hat to actually be elected, but I would hope that we would have one more year of pretty consistent leadership in those departments, because they do know what they're doing, so.
Yeah, I think that we have to look at the whole thing holistically, we can't just be focused or narrow-minded, but, so, a couple of questions is, why wasn't the old system backed up, and who was responsible for not backing up the old accounting system before it just disappeared into the abyss?
So we all knew for years that the system was dying, and that if anything happened to the system, if the server failed, anything happened, that we were not going to be able to get that server up and running. And there was a major power snafu at the sheriff's office that took down not only our system, legacy system, but one of their legacy systems and one of planning's legacy systems, as well as took down our entire firewall and network for the entire county. And when IT went to put all of it back together, our system wouldn't come up. And we knew that that was always the possibility that it may not come up. And it's going to make this next audit hard, because that's the last audit, the one that is coming up that we should be starting here real soon, to make that real hard, because that was the last audit on the old system. And we all knew that that was a huge risk, and it just happened. Nobody knew the day or time that it was going to go, but it went, and we can't get it back. Believe me, I have cried, begged, both Robert Talley at the Office of Education and Travis to, is there anything we can do to resurrect this thing? And I have been told multiple times, there is not, Nancy, it's a dead system.
And so how are we gonna get this next final audit done?
Well, thankfully, Sam, who is your IT department head, has been saying to everyone, download as many reports and things as you have. And Stephanie had downloaded the books as of June 30th, 2024. But she had not been able to go in and download all of the closing entries for that year. So now she'll have to go in on an Excel spreadsheet and do those closing entries to get it to the auditor, because we no longer have access to the system. So once again, it's just going to be a lot of hand entry, a lot of time that's put in by staff to get the numbers and what the outside auditors need. But there isn't anything we can do about it at this point, because the system is gone.
I guess that's not much else we can do.
No, believe me, Aaron, I have tried every way to begged everyone to please look at it. Even Doug Campbell, who administered that system, and part of the reason we had to go to Tyler is because nobody writes in that language anymore, right? And so there's no way to bring another server online that can read or do that data. It's just an outdated, dead language, computer language.
You know, I just wanna go back to part of Tom's frustration that he has, you know, this is many, many years ago, we had our auditor come in there, I happened to be sitting on the board at the time, when she we knew the old system, she knew the old system was going down 10 years ago, 8 years ago. And they come back and they said, well, Tyler Minus, that's the one we need to go with, because it's gonna be the salvation, that's the best thing going, et cetera. I didn't like it because of the cost of it, et cetera, annual cost of it, but anyway, the board went ahead and went with it, and here we are.
And you're not gonna like the new number either.
And here we are again, and it's still not working, but
Well, that is not necessarily true. The majority of the program is working, and we are teaching staff, and with all new programs,
but how
it
many
takes a
years
while.
did it take us to get there? I mean, that's the problem.
2018 is what the grand jury quoted, is when it came forward, and what we're in 2025, so.
But my point is that as board of supervisors, we don't know what accounting program's gonna work for what departments, and so we authorize them, because she said that's the one they needed. So we went with that, and then it took how many years to even try to get that thing to start to be implemented? I mean, it wasn't until you come on board, Nancy, that this thing started going. But it sat there vacant through Whipple and through Morgan until you come along, and then you was the one that got the ball rolling and got this thing going. You're the one. It wasn't the previous two. That's my point, is that we're only as good as the information we're provided. They provide us with information. This Tyler Minus is the one we need to go with. And so we went with it. Whipple did nothing with it. It was her recommendation. Morgan was forced into it. She didn't do anything with it. It wasn't until you come along, you got the ball rolling on this, and said, we need help. We've got to get training. We've got to get IT involved. We've got to build this thing. It wasn't until you that this thing actually kicked off. And that's my point, was thank you for doing that and getting other people involved, because the previous people never did. Because they never asked for help. And as a board of supervisors, we can't go to an elected official and say, you need to get this done. We did that, but what happened? Nothing. We have no control over it. That's my point. That's my point. You're the only one that had the wherewithal to ask for help, saying, I can't do this. You asked for help, you got it, and now we're starting to go with it. But here again, now we're behind the 8 ball because nobody else would do it. So now we're gonna be struggling again.
Yep.
The community's kicking our butt. The IRS is kicking our butt. CalPERS, everybody's after us. Auditors, everybody. Because other people are too lazy to do their job, didn't want to ask for help, too prideful, whatever. And now we're suffering.
I
so,
totally agree,
here we
and
are.
I don't have any solutions for you other than to keep tracking through and trying to get caught up as quickly as we can, because we can't just say, oh, let's not do these other audits, because federal government wants them for every single year.
Yeah.
We have no choice but to walk the road. We still have to continue to walk the road until we get current. There's no choice. We don't make those rules either.
I know in the meantime, we can't get these roads built and everybody's chewing on our ass. And thank you again for getting this ball rolling and almost getting across the finish line for you there. I wish you'd stick around and finish it, but I understand.
Jason?
I just kind of wanted to echo on what Supervisor Allball said, Nancy. Ever since I've been elected, you said, when the people and personnel that have been here for years and they leave, they take a plethora of institutional knowledge with them. And part of the grand jury reports year after year is have a succession plan, And that's the one thing you told me, shoot, I think in the hallway on the day we got elected. In this case, I'm fully confident in what you've done with Stephanie Horanek as far as taking over the auditor's office, and Taya Short taking over the treasurer's office. I think you're leaving us in good hands. I beg and wish you would stay for the rest of your term, just like Aaron said. And another thing is, I agree with every single finding in last year's grand jury report, every single finding. And I was the only supervisor that voted against the county's rebuttal. I found it arrogant and irresponsible to the grand jury's findings. I mean, why have a grand jury if we're not gonna even recognize their recommendations? But I agree with every single one of them, and I wish you would stay, and I think it'd be a grave mistake if we broke anything up, whether it be Stephanie taking over the auditor's office or Taya taking over the treasurer's office. It would create more chaos, and both the offices where we need to keep everything going the way it is and finish up our audits. And I appreciate all the hard work and dedication that you've had with Lassen County, and thank you. And the main thing, the one finding I really, really agree with, well, I agree with all of them, is you do deserve an award. You took on chaos and got us going in the right direction. With the exception of personnel getting up to snuff and getting trained on Tyler, you're leaving us in a good position. I just want to thank you for that.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, yes, ma'am.
Good morning, board members and county council. My name is Elaine Jacobs. I retired from Lassen County in 2012 after 30 years of service. First, a little about my background with the county. I started work in 1981 with the welfare department and was a supervisor over the programs where we determined eligibility for clients. I then went to child support as office manager. My duties included budget and compliance. My last position was fiscal officer for mental health. My duties included budgets, contracts, tracking revenue and expenditures, meeting with department heads and working with their support staff to make sure all billings were being done correctly so that all services that were provided were entered into a system so they could be billed. It was up to me and my staff to keep spreadsheets that tracked where we were within a certain time of our budget. Because with mental health, it's a guessing game. Your budget is a stream of billings that are done with services. And if your staff is not providing those services and billing, you're not going to meet your budget expenditures that you need the cash flow for. So I do have knowledge of how things run within the county. I had the opportunity to work with great auditors, Irene Doyle and Karen Faust, who left this county in a great way. When Mrs. Cardenas first came to tell me she was going to accept the position as the auditor, I told her she was crazy. The horror stories that I heard about the mess in the office were awful, and I continued to hear them and continued to hear them. And if I'm hearing things, that tells you how bad it is. She felt she was capable of doing the job and wanted to go in and help get this county back on track. She went in to an office with low morale and no training, and her and staff did everything that they needed to do and hit the ground running. Every day brought newfound challenges along with the old ones. Her and her staff were able to accomplish many things while still waiting on admin to do their part. There are still many issues remaining. What took years to mess up will take a while to hopefully get corrected. You are all losing a very knowledgeable person, and her 26 years of experience was a great asset. Thank God she had trained and prepared 2 of her staff that can step in and do the job. If you do not put qualified people in, you will be back to square one. I am also outraged for the vote of confidence given the CAO after him and county council pulled in Mrs. Cardenas' staff and talked to them about health issues, which is a violation of HIPAA. And if your attorney doesn't even know that, then she needs to be fired. I will be having, everyone is aware of HIPAA. It is time that the board and admin take accountability for many of the fiscal issues that were existing within departments. Both the board and admin allowed their newly hired HSS and public health director to basically get rid of the chief fiscal officer position that supervised all the fiscal officers within each department of that department, HSS and thing. Those fiscal officers had the same duties I had, kept track of revenues, could tell Yvonne Smith, who was the chief fiscal officer at that time, with her oversight, exactly what was going on. What was not coming in? What were the issues? Financially, Can we meet our budget? Should we not fill vacancies? That kind of stuff. You allow this woman to come in and destroy that fiscal office. You have no fiscal officers. That is unacceptable. How would you know what's going on with the departments? I find it unacceptable that you're all making excuses about it's not my problem. You hire the department heads. It is your responsibility to at least meet with that department head and question the fiscal stability of that department. So by you telling me you have no responsibility, that's unacceptable. That is your job. You can have all your other committees and everything for that, but you are not helping the county remain fiscally sound by not making your department heads accountable. Mental health is looking at millions of dollars that have to be paid back that you don't have to pay back. It is time you all woke up and smelled the coffee. You were voted in by the public to oversee and educate and know the issues. No one expects you to be an expert, but that's why you have department heads to give you that information. And that's why your department heads have fiscal people within their departments to keep it going. It is time you become more involved with the county. You are their bosses.
You about wrapped up, Elaine?
Pardon?
Are you about wrapped up?
Yeah. You can make sure departments kept up the fiscal information. I am tired of excuses by board members saying it's not our fault. You hire people to run your programs. You're not keeping up with them. You're not talking to them and making them provide the information that needs to be provided. So yes, that is your responsibility. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I didn't fill out a speaker's form, but I've been a member of the Treasury Oversight
You're gonna have to
Committee
come to the
for
podium.
about
and we
8
need your
years. My name
and-
is Martin Balding,
Thank you.
and I met Nancy when I was the general manager for the Stones Midgard Community Service District. At that time, that was about 11 years ago, I guess, I was trying to work with the Treasury's Department because we had some funds that we needed to invest. And I didn't get any place. And as soon as Nancy came on board, and I talked to her, and within a very short time, everything was efficiently handled to the benefit of the Community Service Department. And it's been a pleasure. Every time I contacted her, there was quick help and response, and I'm sure that's the way she serviced all the various districts, service districts and others that she's worked with. So it's been, and at some point after that, I became a member of the Oversight Committee. Our last meeting was on May 13th, and Maurice was not at that meeting. It would have been a good time to have brought some of this up at that time. So I'm convinced that Nancy is the person you want to have. She's managing, how many millions of dollars do you have in the portfolio right now?
You're gonna have to talk to us, sir.
220 million.
Okay, there you are. We're over $200 million of our county funds. I wouldn't want anyone else to take that over right away. She knows what she's doing. And one of the questions you might want to ask in the Oversight Committee report, we have a list of the investments at that time in May. And those investments are turning over all the time. This is not investing in bitcoins or stocks. It's investing in firms that we believe are strong enough and can continue to pay interest to the county. And of course, the interest is not enough to keep up with inflation, but it's our only attempt to keep up with inflation. And you need someone who can manage that carefully and astutely. If you go into the office, you can get a list of the investments she's making, and you pick out anything on that list and tell them you want to see the paperwork for that company, because this cannot all be made out of the in digital where we can't access it. So that information is there. I'm sure we have someone who takes care of it very carefully. So I would encourage the county to do whatever they can simply to satisfy Nancy Cardenas at this point, because she's investing for all of us. And I'm absolutely convinced that she's reliable, conscientious, intelligent, and doing the best job she can for the county. Now, I'll have to admit, I came in with a little bit of prejudice. I've been trying to work with the building department to get a well drilled on my property at Eagle Lake. Well, that sounds like a subject that's just off base right here. But I've been stonewalled at every point. And it was last November on the 1st that I came in and got a county stamp on a letter, and I left it there for Maurice Anderson. And I still haven't had an answer on that. They will not come to, Maurice has instructed his workers not to talk to me, and he himself won't talk to me. I've been in the office at least 3 times asking a rather simple question. No one will talk to me, and I'm going to leave this, with my supervisor. He might be able to get a response for me that I haven't been able to get. And if you'll excuse me, I'm finished with my presentation, and thank you very much, supervisors, for representing me and everyone in the county and taking your time to be here and allowing us to speak. Thank you.
Nancy, I just want to, you know how much I appreciate what.
I'm hearing impaired, really.
All right. Nancy, I want to let you know how much I appreciate you. You've done a great job, and I've asked you numerous times to reconsider, and I'm still asking. And it was without your hard work, Lassen County doesn't know how that she pulled us out of a huge situation that, in my mind, there's no doubt that the state would have came in and started taking over the financial part of Lassen County. It was a mess, and it's still a mess. And so, you have got us to a point, that we're using the Tyler system. The Tyler system, to Aaron's point, it's taken other counties 2 years to implement the Tyler system. And now we're working on our 8th year. So, Mr. Albaugh, we could have had all of that stuff in place of the Munich system that we're in badly need of now. But because of that, and that's why I have been asking, when can we get this project wrapped up? And Nancy has and she's trained her staff. She's came in and she set that goal that she was going to have 2 people in place when she left to be able to take over those 2 departments. Because when the board chose to have the 2 offices combined, Tom Neely was the one that wrote in opposition that we needed the 2 offices separated, because we need more sets of eyes on our money. And so she has trained I think 2 people that are qualified to take over the 2 offices. And I don't know how we're going to move forward. She's worked with the consultants because Tyler hasn't been a good partner. They supposedly, in their records that they gave us, that in January of 2019, our staff was trained. And they're not trained. And so, you know, I just, I'm heartbroken that we can't get Nancy to stay, because I think we need her leadership in order to finish out this project. And she was really close to getting it done, but I don't know. It just seems like if you're a worker, the county wants to run you off. And that just irritates me to no end. And so, you know, I just, you know, I'm just frustrated, you know, why we can't get staff to complete their projects. You know, I don't know why they can't get their projects completed, but I'm expecting an answer. So that's all I have on this topic, and I would like to take a 5-minute break.
Thank you, sir.
Face from the grass by the golf course there.
Oh,
And I mean, he just got a whole load they have, he got it all. That's come right out. Of course, in their stink. Yeah, no, it's good.
yeah. I like that. All right, let's see here.
Okay, relax.
Okay, we're gonna come back and, move to H2. And that's, returning.
Hello, I'm returning from last week.
Hey,
I'm Tiffany Armstrong, Director of Lassen County Behavioral Health, and we were gonna go over the 2 agreements. So hopefully you guys had an opportunity to review both documents, and if you had any questions for me about each one. And we can start with the 25-50-135
yes.
agreement.
I thank you for the extra week to read those documents. Didn't take me the whole week, but big chunk of it. We already talked about the updating of contact information on one page, but my question is farther down into the contract about minor consent. And I'm just curious about, I know what the contract says, the minor can ask for services without notifying their parents, or, you know, they can consent to that. What's the actual practice on that? I mean, I know what the contract says, but what's actually happening? Are kids coming through that way, or how many?
Oh, yeah, we have very few kids that come through, but we do have on occasion a few children that have come through in the last number of years where they've asked for services just on their own accord with no parental involvement. So we actually have developed a policy within the department that we go by. This policy really clearly articulates how we handle children over the age of 12 who are coming in without any sort of parent involvement. On a rare occasion, we have children that are coming in and saying, hey, there's stuff happening to me, but I don't want my parents to know because their parents could be involved in the situation. So they come in, they ask for services, we provide those services discreetly, without them. But the idea is to really keep focused that we want them to get back with their parents. But in some occasions, because we are mandated reporters, we do have to follow through with those guidelines if there is something that, if they are being physically or sexually or emotionally abused, we have to follow through with the Child Protective Services. Like I said, there are very few that come through, but on occasion, we do have kids that do have to seek services without their parents' consent. The question I get the most often is, why did the state pick the age of 12? I don't know why they picked 12, why didn't they pick 13 or 14 or 15? It was just that the state decided that because if a child has reproductive rights and they can pick, you know, for physical health reasons to go and get services without their parent consent, they thought that it would apply to the same for mental health services. So again, I don't know the reasoning behind the age of 12, but that's what the state agreed upon.
In general, if the parents aren't considered a suspect, as an example, in the thing,
Right.
would you normally notify the parents?
Oh, absolutely. If there's occasions to say, you know what, this is because it's all in the discretion of the therapist. Once they're assessing that child and said this isn't really something that we have to keep from the parent, we need to involve the parents, and absolutely, we will involve the parents at that point. Sometimes there's misunderstanding, miscommunication that goes on, and sometimes kids will say, you know, I got in trouble with my parents, I don't want my parents to know about it. That's different. This is really about them coming forward and saying, I'm being physically, sexually, or emotionally abused. And there is times where we have to be very careful in making sure that those kids are getting services and they're not being, going without services. But yeah, we have the therapists have the ability to use discretion in this. And there's been all times where kids will come forward and say, I don't want my parents to know anything about it. No, they have to involve the parents. That's what the parents are there for, is to hopefully work through it, whatever the communication issues that might be.
Cool. Last question I have is, actually, second to last question. Towards the end of both contracts that we're gonna talk about today, there's a clause that says that none of the state funds can be used for any kind of religious purpose, which I understand that. What I didn't see was any mention of any prohibition against the state paying lease or rent to the county as opposed to a private property owner.
That one I can't articulate to why they decided not to write that language in there. I don't know.
I'm asking that based on the previous question
Ah.
submitted, that when I made a suggestion about, the county reversing their own building and getting the state to pay us the rent, several people jumped at one time and, oh, you can't do that. And I'm still looking for a reason why we can't do that.
Right, it would make sense though, if you think about it,
Well, it wasn't, this is what do you call it,
an agreement.
an agreement.
Mhm.
And it dictates how we're gonna relate to the state and the services we're gonna provide and being held accountable, so to speak.
Right,
So there's no mention of what I'm looking for there, but we'll keep looking, I guess.
we'll keep looking for that.
Thank you.
But I do wanna say that Mike, sent me a question that I thought would articulate here at the board, just to kind of hopefully ease some of the kind of what's going on, why is there two contracts and why are they almost identical to the same language? So if you remember, years ago, drug and alcohol was its own standalone department. It actually had its own director, it had its own fiscal officers, it had its own clerical, had its own staff. Over the years, the Department of Healthcare Services said, no, we're not gonna have a standalone Department of Drug and Alcohol Department, we're gonna merge it with mental health. And so for the past 10, 15 years, that's what we've been doing, is merging ourselves together as what we call now behavioral health. But there is still these standalone federal guidelines that still have to abide to on the drug and alcohol side. So of course, when we're going through like compliance issues, QA/QI, quality assurance, quality improvement issues, there's times where I have to break it out and have separate contracts, one specifically for that drug and alcohol piece, or one specifically that's for both specialty mental health and for drug Medi-Cal. So it gets very confusing because I know even myself and my staff, we get confused because it's like you're almost looking at the identical contracts when you're reading through verbatim, but there's these little nuances that happen with drug Medi-Cal versus the specialty mental health. And so when we go in and we sit down and we go through line by line, I have to create policies that are separate for the drug Medi-Cal side. So we know that there's special rules that still are in play, even though there's still no department, the standalone silo department for drug Medi-Cal, there's still stuff on the regulation side, on the federal side, that we're still having to mandate and follow through on. So I'm hoping that clears up the why we have two very weird or they don't call them contracts, they call them agreements. But why do we have two agreements that look almost identical, almost verbatim, but on the drug and Medi-Cal side, there's still laws that we still have to abide to that have nothing to do with specialty mental health.
Well, thank you for your patience and for answering my questions.
Anybody else? Yes.
You know, did you ever get a hold of them and see if I could talk to them and help you explain your insanity and stupidity of this whole thing?
We can always set up a time to meet with them. They might not give us the answer that we want to hear, but yeah, they just basically, this is what we have, is what we have. It's like some of the nuanced language, like why do I have to close out a chart on the drug Medi-Cal 30 days? Or on the specialty mental health side, I can leave it open indefinitely. There's nuances.
Yeah, you got 700 pages of stuff that doesn't, the rules and checklists that you're supposed to go. Instead of just giving the money to the people, or the money to give to the people when they need it, you gotta do all these check boxes and stuff, and it's just,
Yeah.
it's screwed.
Well,
You guys are wasting your time checking the boxes instead of helping.
Thank you, I appreciate that, because that's exactly what we do. We're checking boxes. We're really here and focused, and I want to keep reiterating, we're here to focus on saving people's lives. What we're trying to do is making sure that people get the services that they need. It's not about me checking a box and saying, okay, did you do X, Y, and Z, and did you get your, poster on the wall to make sure it's in 12-point font? Our real focus in this department is to really serve the people. We have a lot of people who are struggling right now in our community, and that's what we should be focusing on. But the state puts together these lovely agreements that they say, oh, in addition to whatever you're also providing, we want you to do this. And that's what makes me mad, is this isn't stuff that I get reimbursed for, but it's required for me to do, or for the department to do.
It's insanity, I guess. So, the other stupid question that I always ask is, what if we don't approve this?
Then they
Then
say
you don't
that-
have to abide by these rules?
correct. Well, they'll say, well, we'll find an entity that can. And I don't know what that is.
Oh, then I would have to vote on it.
They can read the contract.
I mean, the sad thing about it is if we don't vote on it, then people would obviously struggle. We have people that need medications, we need people to put folks in the hospital or keep them in the hospital to maintain their safety and the safety of the community here. And so, again, as much as I hate having to go through this each and every couple of years, it's still one of the nuances that I have to do according to the Department of Healthcare Services. It's not something I can really say, well, I really don't wanna be worrying about posters. But they're gonna say, no, that is part of your job. We wanna make sure the public knows and what services are you providing. They should go into the lobby and be able to see a poster in 20-point font that explains all your services that you currently are providing. So, it's hard.
Anybody else?
I just wanna make a comment real quick. It's pretty sad when you're burning a valuable daylight on stuff like this, when you could be hands-on helping the people, and that's the reason that your department's there.
Correct.
That breaks my heart.
That is hard, yeah. I mean, think about it, we're serving children all the way through older adults. And when I have to take staff's time away to focus on this kind of stuff, what are we doing with our community that's really here for us? I mean, that's what we should be focusing on.
Alright, is there anybody from the public? Alright, I need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement number 25-50135 with the Department of Health and Care Services and authorize the county administrative officer or designee to execute the agreement.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Supervisor Scanlon, second by Supervisor Bridges. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. All right, moving on to H3.
This again is the same, almost identical agreement from the one we just reviewed. This is 25-50100, and this is for drug Medi-Cal.
All my questions have already been answered. It's almost an identical contract with a couple different checkboxes, but
All right,
I understand.
yes.
My complaints are still the same, it's not checking boxes and not certain.
Okay. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement of 25-50100 with the Department of Health Care Services and authorize the county administrative officer or designate to execute the agreement.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made by Supervisor Bridges, seconded by Supervisor Scanlon. All those in favor?
Aye.
No. That's where it goes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
That's it.
Stephanie.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Okay, we're going to move to H4.
Mr. Chairman, last week I did give a report based on information I received from Mrs. Schapp, and she's here today, and she's had another training with the folks from HCM, and she's here and she can give you a report.
Right.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members, Madam Clerk, Regina Schapp, Personnel Risk Analyst. So we've had 2 recent trainings with the Tyler Project trainer. We had not worked with this person before. This person had not been offered from Tyler in the past. And we found that she is very knowledgeable. Our training has gone extremely well. I think we're making progress. When you start in the training realm and you're going through and you're analyzing each transaction and making sure that all of these records are clean and moving on to the next one, of course, it always opens up the door for other things that you may have missed in other modules, because not all of them are connected together. So you start here and then you gotta go chase down something over here and then something over here. And so we found that there's still some minor cleanup in other areas as we go through from beginning to end to clean up and audit those individual records. So out of the 700, I believe, and 734 records that we had that were imported early on in the Tyler implementation system, We have now narrowed it down already to 633 records. And so we're just systematically going through one by one by one. And hopefully we'll be able to get those corrected, get all of those old records closed or deleted if they were duplicates. As long as they didn't have any people attached to them, we're able to delete them and move on. So I feel like we're making some progress now. We're getting a better understanding of that audit process, and these things should be non-existent in the future. And so right now, we have one more training scheduled for September 22nd as we move through on our own in the next few weeks until September 22nd. We can only do those on non-payroll weeks, so that would be this week, and then not next week, but the week after. So every 2 weeks is the only time that we can go in and physically work in these records, because they have to be in a non-payroll week, so that we're not missing with payroll. So right now, we have myself, Belinda, and we have Michelle DeMondin in payroll, who has a portion of that corrective work to do on her side. So HR begins the process of initiating payroll, and then payroll will initiate the actual payment to employees. And there are some records in those old 734 records initially that were never officially categorized as inactive after the payroll was run. So if you have an employee that left employment, if their record isn't closed out and inactivated on the payroll side, it still can have an impact on an active payroll. So we're discovering that there's just that finishing point in the payroll system that they can complete now and close all those old records from the payroll standpoint. So we're hoping that will clean up most of these records. Then we can look at creating the workflow, getting all of that to make sure it's working so that people can start implementing the self-service module to get their timesheets entered, and it will follow a workflow thereafter where it goes, the employee puts in their timesheet, it goes via email to their supervisor can then electronically review everything, approve it, and then it goes to payroll or whoever those workflow supervisors are in the system. So that is our goal, that's what we're working towards. I don't have an exact date on when we can complete this, but I'm happy to come back every 2 weeks until it's done to give you a product or a status update if you so choose.
Okay, is there any questions?
No, you can't give us an exact date of when you can implement that, but maybe a range like 60 days or,
I can attempt to do that within a 60-day period. The corrections can probably happen within that period. It's then making sure that we have the workflow and the supervisors' input into the system. So we had an old request from departments last year to give us a list of all of their supervisors. And once we have a current list of that, we can then implement those position numbers and create the workflow so that at least the timesheet implementation can move forward. And we'll still have to test that too in the test environment to make sure that it's working properly and that it's going to the people that it's supposed to, so.
Yes, sir.
So had you have taken these trainings earlier, you could have been done within 60 days?
I would hope so, yeah. You don't know what you don't know. And so I feel like we're getting somewhere, it's making sense, and we're seeing the flow from beginning to end where we didn't have that before. We had huge gaps of information that we were missing. And so I feel like the new trainer at Tyler, I'm very pleased with. She's been fantastic and has a lot of institutional knowledge about the project. And I wish that we could have had someone like her from the beginning, but here we are.
Mr. Chairman, can I suggest maybe we have Regina come back like in a month? Not every 2 weeks or every week, be too much pressure, but maybe in a month, just to get an update.
After the 22nd training, because you
Absolutely,
won't have nothing to
yeah.
update till then, right?
Well, maybe, I'll probably just tell you what the gap is at that point. But I feel like maybe after the 22nd, because if we have issues that come up in between now and the 22nd, we can address those with the trainer at the time so that we can get those questions answered. Because again, like when you're doing an audit, it's kind of a trail, and you follow the trail, and then you find out there's something else that's missing. But we also have her email address too, so if we, she's welcome emails from us if we have questions along the way, that we can reach out to her and ask her, hey, how do we fix this, or why is it doing this? And she's more than happy to assist us in doing that as well.
I was thinking in terms of an update, like there's a bunch of components to this.
Absolutely.
Email addresses for supervisors being one of them. I don't know if you've got a pecking order of what you're attacking first, but just in a month to know we got this done or whatever.
That way we'll learn a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
every
mean,
2 weeks is
it's
just
really
pretty
hard
close.
to, in front of you here now, just to condense, like, just minimally, really, what's all entailed in this. It's complicated, and, and I keep saying that, but it's true. When you have records that are created early on in the very beginning, we had inexperience with this very, very large project, and nobody had any idea of the magnitude that would be involved and the resources that we had to attach to that. And I don't think that it was communicated in the beginning by the auditor to say, look, I need help with this. We've got to get someone to run this project, manage the project, and it was just outside of her realm, and it's not her fault. It was a very big project, and I think we just snowballed this from the very beginning. It was just, the magnitude was too large, and we couldn't apply the resources that were necessary at the time, unfortunately. And so here we are, and unfortunately it's 8 years later. So,
Well, thank you for your
all
work.
we can do is try and remedy it and fix it and move forward, and that's what we're gonna work toward.
Thank you for your work and getting it going forward.
I want to thank you too. It kind of goes back to the beginning, it sounds like to me. Tyler really didn't help a whole lot. And anyway, thank you for what you've done and the research you've done and the direction you're moving.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, they applied a trainer at the time, but again, we've had trainings assigned to us, but if you don't have a system that's functionally working, I mean, we never had a complete training from the beginning. It was a start and stop, and and IT would have to work with Tyler, and Tyler wouldn't communicate, and there were a lot of just, if anything could go wrong, it did from the very beginning. And the people who've stayed and toughed this out, it's been rough, and we're doing the best we can to try and mitigate that.
So there wasn't even enough training for you to ask questions to know what you needed.
Part of our problem is when it started, we didn't set it up. It was set up by another person, and no fault of hers, right? She was trying to get things done and moving forward. But if we don't see something from start to finish from the Tyler implementation team, we don't know if we're setting it up right. So we, in hindsight's 2020, had we known what we know now, we wouldn't have done it that way. And so now we're just busy trying to clean up what has been done, fix it to the best of our ability, make sure that it's not going to interfere with current records and current pay, and move on.
Yes, Mr. Alval.
You're right, Jim, you don't know what you don't know. And nobody knew what we were getting into when we first got this, Tyler, and anyway. And so here we are, it's been problem after problem after problem. People have just quit, retired, have health issues, et cetera, and just, so thank you for being one of the diligent ones that stood up to this, because you've got to go back and do so much stuff, I know, it's been overwhelming.
It's
So,
tough.
Very tough, yes, and it has been brutal, and not so many kind of things have been said, so, thank you for being there.
And I get it, I take my responsibility for this, for my role in it, I get it. And I'm doing the best I can.
Good.
And trying to do everything else too, and it's a lot of responsibility.
So for clarification, you said there was 700 and something, and you've got 600 and something done, or there's 600 and something left to do?
We have 600 and, we've looked, it's out of 734, I have 634 left to do, or sorry, 600 and,
So you get 100.
yeah, about, yes, that we've looked at.
And so it's gonna take a couple months to get this done.
Well, I
Theoretically,
mean, not,
depending on how
nah,
many
you know,
rabbit
maybe
trails
not. I mean, I will dedicate my time, you know, the time that it takes in between negotiations, and, you know, if we need to assign other people to my other workload, we still need to divvy that up in with the CAO, and so, if I can get that done, then we can start working on concentrating on this and this alone. It's tough. I mean, there's nobody that can do my stuff right now.
And so, of the old system, how much of this do you have to go back to the old system that wasn't backed up?
Oh, I don't use the old system at all. We are completely 100% in Tyler.
So you're out of, you don't have to worry about.
I have my own legacy system with all of our employee information that, again, it's also not being maintained anymore because the software's so old and the programming's so old too. And it has some institutional information that we're not gonna get anywhere else either. That's the problem we run into with all of these software programs. They're only good so long and they're only updated so long, and software companies come and go.
So is
But
yours,
I don't use the legacy system.
is yours backed up so you don't have the same problem that the auditor has?
Yeah, absolutely.
So why wasn't the auditor system backed up? I asked a question earlier, that wasn't really answered. Do you have an answer for that?
I don't think it's not that it wasn't backed up. It's just that, you know, technology has advanced and it's old technology. I mean, it's a DOS-based system. Eventually, it's going to be obsolete, and that's what we were facing. You know, you can back it up so much, but, you know, technology exceeds.
Is that it?
That's it.
This was,
One of the things I've seen is that you can back it up, but if you don't have a current program to play the backup
To
on,
read it,
it doesn't do any good.
Right.
You know, having the information on the disk, if you don't have a program that operates to open up that backup, which is what happened here.
It's useless.
They could have had all the backups in the world, but.
Right.
So if you have it backed up on an 8-track CD.
Yeah, you don't have an
You know
8-track
you're-
player anymore.
You know you're in trouble.
4-track, Aaron, 4-track.
Now it works.
Yeah.
anybody else?
No. Thank you.
Okay, are you the personnel director?
I am not a
Who
director.
is that?
The CAO is the director. I am an analyst.
Okay, so Maury's the personnel director?
That is correct.
And when this system was purchased, were you involved with the purchasing team that's on there?
So I was in a different role in the CAO's office, and I was the administrative assistant under the CAO.
Okay.
And so there was an RFP that was issued for that project. You know, I didn't sit on the selection committee, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah,
We had demonstrations from 2 vendors, I believe, at the time, that, or maybe 3. One was outrageous, and then there was one other besides Tyler that was in and around the same ballpark. But I had nothing to do with the selection process.
so when did you take on the Tyler project, what year?
It wasn't, so right when I took on the new role as the analyst in 2018, that's when Tyler was coming on board. And so from that period on, moving forward, yeah, I had been a part of that as it relates to the HR module.
So you were an analyst
Yes.
in there?
Yes.
And so who was your,
The CAO was still the director at that time.
okay, so when Tyler implemented the training, so how did they do that? How did they give you that information? Did they just show up one day and say,
So-
hey, here we are, and let's dig into it? How did that all work?
So the auditor's office was the project manager, if you will. They accepted the project, and the auditor assigned the staff to that based on, okay, so let me back up. The Tyler program was implemented a little backwards, and I think I've had this conversation before. It started because the payroll system, which was separate from the Gen Led system, our legacy system, it was a standalone program that they were using to pay everybody. That system was no longer gonna be supported by the software group that had created it. And so that kind of kick-started, hey, our Gen Led system is old and ancient, we need to upgrade. And we'd like to be able to pull in the payroll side as well, so that departments can have information available all in one system rather than having them separate. So it's kind of a backwards way to start a project when you have a general ed system that you're starting with the payroll side first. It should always begin with your general ledger, HR, and then your payroll is usually last. So we implemented it backwards from the beginning, which, it's not ideal. And we've struggled from that period forward. Now, Gen Ed is finally caught up, and, the HR module has been stuck in the middle. Now, the training was implemented through project managers, so we have a project manager at Tyler, and there was a project manager of Tyler in the auditor's office, which was Lori, the former assistant auditor. So she was assigned by Diana to take on this project. And so she would then send out emails, depending on what the training was at the time. And we would either attend if we could or not. And so that's how it was initiated.
Why wouldn't you attend?
So, I can't always be at the trainings on their selected dates. If I have other obligations, if I'm out sick, if I got a vacation planned. There's only one, so, the other person left in our office at the time was Belinda, which means she would have to do everything else. We just didn't have enough resources to spread. So I attempted to do all the trainings that I could when I was available and do my regular job.
And did you ever express it to the CAO that you needed more help?
We had irregular meetings about the status, and so, I broke down, where we were, what we were struggling with at those times.
And what was the response?
There wasn't really any response. I just broke it down, and that's kind of where it was left.
So when you missed those trainings, would you think that you should, where that module was and what you needed to work on, and would you ever continue to work on those projects and then get back to Tyler and say, I'm ready, or how did that work?
No, so Tyler, their training model was they had all of these trainings sequentially ready to go. And their object is to get the trainings done, check the box, move on to the next training, check the box, and move on to the next training. The difficulty is, because we started backwards with payroll and we hadn't initiated general ledger, we had a disconnect between the HR module and the payroll module. Nothing was connecting. So even in our test environments, when we were doing trainings, we couldn't complete a training. Then we had trainers that were like, I need to read up on this, or I need to talk to my manager. And our trainings were never successful. They were never complete. We had one training in 4 years that actually we saw from beginning to end. That was it. And so there was a struggle on the IT side with connections. there was a struggle with our trainer, who I don't think we had very knowledgeable trainees in the beginning, and they weren't able to just come in and fix something and move forward because there were, I guess, check boxes in the background. The programming hadn't been finished yet. So it's been a very tough road to deal with. And so you become frustrated, you're sitting in trainings, you're raring to go, and it's a start and stop, and you can't go any further. And those things, we couldn't connect, we couldn't fix. Those had to be done between Tyler and our project manager and our IT staff.
And so our IT staff, when you came upon a problem, they couldn't give you an answer of what was going on.
But that was, so we were given very specific roles, which, our project manager at the time was the assistant auditor. That person connected directly with Tyler. We were never given a 1-800 number, it's broke, to fix these things. We were directed to give our issues to our project manager. That person was then assigned to speak with the project manager at Tyler. We had no connection to Tyler directly at all.
And when you wouldn't get an answer in a reasonable amount of time, then you would just let it go.
We just moved on. I mean, we can't fix the items that is broken and that we can't fix. And so, I can't speak to the hierarchy, that happens at the time,
That you can't do that,
Yeah.
but when I ask somebody a question and don't get an answer back, I'm trying to grasp why we're here where we are.
Sure.
And that when you don't get a reasonable response in a reasonable amount of time, why would we not ask the question again and again and again?
Those questions were consistently asked. If we had a stopping point, we couldn't move forward, and all we get a response that I've already sent that to Tyler. I've already sent that to Tyler. We don't know. We don't know what that interaction is, so we don't have that connection. We can't verify that information. And so then what? We're just kind of stuck, and it just sits in limbo until somebody says, okay, it's fixed, or, you're checking, hey, is this done? No, haven't heard back. So.
Okay, yeah, because Tyler claims that they have a system that priority 1, priority 2, that when you guys were supposed to fill in a claim ticket, and that they would respond within either a 24-hour period, a 1-week period, or a 1-month period.
Sure.
They have that in their contract.
Mm-hmm.
So, it just baffles me that we're back here using Tyler again when they set up with us and they had a priority system of 24 hours, 1 week, 1 month that they were supposed to get back. And so, and then staff doesn't follow up. In January of 2029, we're supposed to be going live with the payroll system. And here we are, we're not there.
Well, the payroll system is live, so,
And
the HR system is live, but the difficulty is.
So it's up and fully working. We
No, I'm
don't
just
need
saying
any of
that
this
I'm just saying it's
training.
live. I'm not saying it isn't dysfunctional. There are some problems that we're trying to fix, which is what we needed, Tyler's assistance with, or Client First assistance with, somebody who could tell us, let's go through and let's go through the process. What are we missing here? Because this isn't working. And so now, Client First helped us up to a certain point until their trainer became unavailable. And so now we decided, I had Cheyenne reach out to, Tyler to see, hey, okay, do we have any trainers available there? Just to, see if our resources have changed. And, we were lucky enough to get the recent trainer who's very knowledgeable and, can start from A to Z. And we're very happy with that.
Okay.
Do,
Previously, you were there's a communication link,
Sure.
and you're reaching out to a project manager. Who's the project manager now, and do you have the same communication
Well,
issues?
so that still lies, right now that was assigned to IT, 2 years ago? And so that's our project manager, and she assists, of course, Nancy in the auditor's office for those.
So that issue's been resolved, you have ready access?
Yes, now we do, absolutely. Yeah, and I reach out to Cheyenne when we need stuff. We talk about what our options are and, try to get those resolved.
Thank you.
all right. Yes.
How many trainings has the HR department went to in the last 2 years as far as getting Tyler implemented?
So I don't know the exact amounts. It depended on availability, trainer and myself. That could have been, once every couple of weeks in a non-payroll period. It could have been once every couple of months, depending on schedules.
Okay, well, you previously mentioned that it's either you or Belinda, that's basically what you guys have to work with. One or the other would have to attend these trainings, and whether you're sick or vacation or what have you. But the only issue I'm seeing is that department holding up the full implementation with Tyler. Well, it seems like that department needs to put it on the back burner. This has been going on for 7 years. Seems like, well, if there's only Belinda left, 8, excuse me, if it's only Belinda left or you left, somebody needs to attend those trainings, because we're now being held up from basically HR department not finishing up with Tyler.
Correct.
So then this was under the previous CAO that just you told, hey, it would just either be or Belinda or what have you, and he said okay, or how did that work? Is just excused from going to the training, or?
No. I mean, the training part was not the issue. We were talking about a time frame of trying to initiate, from a limited training that we had to try and fix those irregularities in those 734 records. And it just wasn't successful because we didn't have all the answers that we needed. And so, you can't implement something that you don't know what you're missing. And so those were the limited conversations that we had with CAO on status was, basically, here's where we are.
And between this last training that you just had with Tyler, you had 734 records, and now you're down to 633 records that need to be implemented in one training?
No, this was from the second training that we had from there until this, so we had one on the 13th, and we had another one on the 25th, yesterday. And so from that period until yesterday, we just been steadily trying to break it down. And then I had a Trindle meeting last week, but it was during a payroll week, so we couldn't do anything until this week, so.
So basically, we won't have a good update from HR until after the 22nd, so the board meeting on the 23rd, we should have something good.
Yeah, I'm happy to bring back an update, absolutely.
Thank you.
So moving forward, when we hired Client First, did they provide you with a training schedule of what days that you were to be in, that HR department was to be in training?
So we would schedule out based on the trainer's schedule, a couple of schedules, sometimes 3, and there was a gap depending on scheduling changes. And so It wasn't always very consistent, but I tried to get to each and every one that I could. I didn't attend all of them or I had to reschedule.
So what's the time frame that they gave you, on their dates? When the schedule was, how was that given to you?
So it had to be played by ear because we didn't know until we dive in exactly what we're missing, how many records there were, and how many problems there were. So it was, we scheduled out a few meetings at a time, and we'd go in, and then, based on that, there would be, a look at, the trainer would get a list for me of like, so we had a trainer, and then we had someone from Client First that actually did an audit of the systems to see where we were deficient in some of those records. So that from that list, then myself and the trainer would go through and try to then audit each one of those records. So some of those records were complicated because when you have them tied to people, you have a lot of records to go through if they've been here the entire time that Tyler was implemented. So 8 years worth of records, you gotta go through and make sure everything is closed. All these are date driven, so your dates have to be closed before you have a next record. Some of those were not left open, or unclosed, which then has an effect on future, iterations in the payroll. So it takes time, and so we couldn't just go in and automatically make all these sweeping changes in one training. So you have to go through systematically through each and every one of those employees, and so it took longer. And so until they could evaluate how long it was gonna take and then, project that out into the trainings, it didn't finish.
So they just randomly gave you a training date?
No, we agreed on a training date based on the trainer's schedule and myself, and in a non-payroll week. And then we tried to make that a consistent training day for, every other week.
And so they never gave you a year list. It was a day-to-day list.
Correct, or a period of time, and then from that period of time, we would create another set of dates. Because they didn't know how long it was gonna take. So you have your training, we make that determination, okay, so how long did this take? It's not gonna be, we're not gonna have this finished by the next training period. So then it's, we'll set up another, set of dates thereafter. And so that's how it went. It was, as we progressed or didn't progress.
So when they scheduled those things, did you tell them whether you couldn't do it because of a payroll week?
We had already, they had told me that we couldn't do it during a payroll week.
Okay.
And so then we scheduled them in off payroll weeks.
So you scheduled them all in off payroll
Correct.
weeks where you could have been there?
Yes, if I didn't have an obligation somewhere else, or if I wasn't sick, or, out of the office.
Or Belinda couldn't attend those scheduled ones
So
that was there?
she in hindsight probably could have, again, but trying to finish her job too. In a non-payroll week for payroll, that's an HR week for us. We still have, payroll actions. We then have to start preparing for the next following pay period. So it's it may not be a payroll week, where they're processing payroll and people are getting paid, but on the HR side, those weeks we're actually inputting all the payroll action forms. And so, stacks. So Belinda inputs all of those in those off payroll weeks. So then I attend the trainings so that she can complete her job too, because there's a lot of work to be done. People have to get paid.
Well, yeah, but you were saying that they scheduled you purposely because they didn't want you to do it on a payroll week. And did you ever indicate to them that, no, even on off payroll weeks, we can attend your trainings? Or how did that work?
No, because we can still input the HR actions in a non-payroll week. That's just, as long as we're not approving them and output posting them. They can sit in a queue, all of these actions, but we have a lot of actions, and we've had a lot of board actions, MOU increases and salary increases and health insurance changes. All of those things require their own each payroll action. So one form for every little thing times, all of our employees. And so it's a lot to process, which is why we needed the extra help that we got Jen for in our office to help Belinda alleviate and cut that in half. But it still doesn't alleviate my responsibilities, because those things, I can't delegate down to Jen. She's still learning Tyler. I mean, it took us 8 years to get where we are. She had never had any experience in that until now.
But you knowing the job and you know that there's salary increases, negotiation,
Sure.
hiring and everything, and then I'm not following. When you're still supposed to meet this obligation to be trained so that it will help you, and that all of this stuff is there. Why wouldn't you tell client first, well, I just can't do it because I have all of this other stuff. I'm not able to get this system up and running, or tell the CAO that we're not that I can't get this system up and running because I have all of this stuff, but I have agreed to work with Client First or Tyler on off payroll days. But how does that process work?
It's not, obviously, I'm struggling, I got a big load on my shoulders, and I'm trying to work through it, I don't have any other answers for that. I just try plugging through and trying to get it done,
And why, why wouldn't you come to the board and ask for help? Because
that's not my role, Tom. I am not a director. I
Okay,
cannot
so-
speak to you directly as a department head, because that's not my role. That would be the director's role. And, I've been put in this position a lot where this responsibility has been placed on me that I think should be measured out. It's too much for one person. And I don't want to be in an acting director role. That's not what I get paid to do. If the hierarchy is changed and, you talk about maybe revamping how that personnel department runs, that is, your all's decision. And all I can say is I've been doing the best I can for all these years, and it's wearing. It's very wearing. And, we have a new CAO now. He's trying to get up to speed too. So, anyway, that's where we stand.
Yeah, Gary.
I just wanna say, I know how busy you are. You're busy on payroll week and you're busy on the other week. And you're trying to squeeze something else in, and it almost sounds like somebody wants to blame you for something, and I guarantee you it's not your fault. And I just wanna make that perfectly clear, because I see how overwhelmed those three ladies are. And I tell you what, they're more than busy. They're more than busy every day of the week. It's not like they're killing time or anything else. And I wanna thank you for what you do squeeze in. And I really appreciate it, so thank you. That's all I have to say.
And I talked to somebody else that's familiar with the training through Tyler, And what they kind of expressed was that the training was totally inept and a waste of time. And someone as busy as you are, I can imagine not looking forward to wasting your time and when you got so many other things going on, but appreciate your help very much.
Yes,
Well, I just kinda wanna add on to that, you know, the Tyler training has been terrible. And it wasn't until after we got Nancy on for the auditor that we got Client First to come in and help out, that's when the ball started rolling. And a lot of this stuff, like Regina was saying earlier, was in the lockbox where there was no, the previous auditors weren't asking for help. They're an elected position, so you can't force them to do anything other than through the budget thing with the financial, you can't make them do anything. And that's where we were stuck, and we couldn't force them to do anything. And so, people like Regina were not a little bit better to request from the department, but they can't do anything else. So they're left holding the bag. Finally, when the new auditor, Nancy, come in, we got help, and now that started the ball rolling. And I thank Nancy for being the first one to raise her hand and say, hey, I can't do this alone, we need help. You know, Richard finally got Jason in there, with AT, to help get the ball rolling, help this thing get started. Now Cheyenne has taken over and done a phenomenal job. And it takes all these people to make this thing work. It isn't just a one-office program. It takes multiple, what do you call them, one teams or whatever. Anyway, you guys are the bill. And so, anyway, and it's just hard. I mean, yeah, Regina, I mean, you're one of the few. I mean, that's why Richard got Jim over there finally. He'd known that there was a problem over there for a couple of years and never got anything, but we're just so limited on staffing and funding and whatnot, it's hard, and it just puts more and more pressure on the other staff, and so anyway, so thank you for Gina for sticking this out, and I hope you don't turn into a resignation. But anyway, it's just tough, I think we're finally getting something going, we're almost there, but it's been a very painful, arduous 8 years to say the least. It's been painful.
okay, Maury, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, I just want to comment that since I've been the CAO, I've of course wanted no more than you folks to get this behind us and get fully functioning. And I think Regina brought up some good points that, you know, it's all in there, we're live, but there's just a lot of double checking, essentially, that the records have to be right or it's garbage in and garbage out. And that is largely a component of time management, and I think that it would be a pity to not recognize what Regina does on a day-to-day basis. In my evaluation of the personnel department, there's too much on her plate. So we're working and trying to figure out how to get that stuff delegated into other people so that she can get hyper-focused on this and get this behind us and start getting Tyler to function. I mean, that's where I'm looking at. And I think it's beneficial to go through this and like look how we got here. Because this is not a failure just with Tyler in terms of, you know, going out, finding the software, buying the software, implementing the software. We have this with Megabyte over in, you know, the assessor's department, not talking to SmartGov, which is over in planning. And I think what that really represents is a systemic problem of the county not understanding what softwares are being implemented and how they're going to work with each other and what the ease or challenges are of implementing new software, because, you know, we had the same problem in SmartGov. You know, it can do all this stuff, that's great, we get it, they give it to us, they walk away, we don't know how it works. And we went through a micro version of this, but had to get trainers and, you know, go revisit the thing in the first place. And now it still doesn't talk to Megabyte, which is ridiculous, you know. And so I think that going forward, we should look at policies for purchasing and implementing softwares so that we're not get in this position in the future, which I'm sure we will, because all this stuff runs a lifetime, or its lifetime, and then you gotta redo it, or you gotta do something different. But certainly back to Regina, you know, a given day in Regina's life is an emergency. You know, this person hit that person. It's like being a principal. And, you know, and now she's got 5 investigations that she's juggling. And so her schedule, like I say, it's just way above and beyond what an analyst should be doing. And so I'm looking hard at all this stuff, and I hope to come back to you with different solutions. I don't even know if it says anything about me being a personnel director in my job description, but I am. I sign all that stuff. Who else would it be? But I think we should take a long, hard look at personnel. And we've got, obviously we added a person to the mix. I think right now you could probably use 2 more. And I don't mean 2 more people that are just, you know, gonna come in and not know anything. Like, we need 2 more people with Regina's background and expertise in the categories that she works in, which are vast. I mean, she's here in front of you with PERS and redoing the tables and, you know, and claims. And it's like, you know, I mean, she's essentially doing the job of personnel director. And she's been holding my hand, getting through my first initial months of being the CAO. And so I commend her. I know that you're frustrated, you're all frustrated, I'm frustrated, everybody is. But I think that for the first time, I see, when I asked her the first meeting on the 13th with the trainer, you know, actually saw her smile and say, yeah, this person's answering the questions that I'm asking. And the same thing with on the last one. And so I think that's a departure right there from what she's been getting over whatever, 8 years, 8 months, whatever. It's never seemed like the information that they need, and I'm speaking for them, and I wasn't there, but it's like there was such a major disconnect in where they are at and what they're trying to understand, that just progress was just, you know, stifled. So I'm looking forward to getting this done as much as anybody. And like I say, I think Regina, for the first time, feels like she sees daylight, and I think we can do it. Let's just get focused on it and get it done. And I'm going to work with all the people in personnel to get anything and everything off her table that I can in the coming weeks and months, so that we can get to a place where it's functioning and we're satisfied.
Well, thank you. I'm going to compliment you on one of your compliments, because I hope that the rest of the board heard, and I have been against the CAO being the personnel director, because all it is a figurehead, and she's not getting any help. And that's why we need a personnel director. And you know, so, I mean, I hope you guys heard what Maury said, because that's what we need to achieve, so that, you know, either make Regina a personnel director and then hire below her. But, you know, that's what that personnel director in the CAO's realm has been, is just a figurehead. She's not getting any help from the CAO. And so I hope you guys heard that, and that during this budget season we can give her some help. And I know, because I do my homework, Regina. I've called a bunch of other counties, and I know from every one of them that's told me that whether they went with Tyler or some other accounting system, that it was very hard and very difficult for staff to implement. And so, you know, I know that you've been working hard, but also the last time you were here, I asked you, and maybe Maury didn't hear me, but I asked, how can this board help you achieve getting this project done? and as far as I know, it was crickets. Because you're not getting the help that you need. The auditor's office, they got to hire more staff. You know, and you need to be able to train people to take your place, because you're not gonna be here forever. And we need somebody that can step up and take your place someday, like what Nancy was able to achieve. So, you know, I mean, I hope you guys really heard that, because Maury, you're right on for that. And so, you know, my frustration is this system has taken 8 years, and it's not up and running. At the tune of $1.5 million we're at right now. And me and the rest of the taxpayers want to know when our investment is going to be completed and done. And I think, you know, we have every right to expect that, you know, and if there's training opportunities that come on, I don't know why they were canceled in the past. You know, the trainers set up more than 2 weeks or a month in advance, and what modules they were going to discuss, and why we didn't follow through and get that training. You know, I don't know the rest of the board, but I would hope that you guys would expect the same thing, is that when the company sets up, and they're probably charging us. So, I'm done. Anybody else?
I just wanna thank you again.
See you on the 23rd.
23rd?
23rd, thank you.
Thank you, Janet.
Okay, we're going to move to H5.
Smith McMullen, Deputy County Administrative Officer. I'm just here to provide a quick update for you guys on the budget. We're moving along. We have entry largely done. We're just waiting on some corrections and some budgets from our departments. One special district budget before we can completely finish and drain that. We will be running a gauntlet again this year for budget hearing or budget committee meetings. I'm looking at doing it all in 1 week again. We'll have each department slotted out, but by doing all this work up front, all we're gonna be really talking about is what the requests are and where we're gonna need to cut to balance. And then lastly, I'm waiting on fund balances from the auditor's office. As you know, the year end closed. So we're making transfers back and settling stuff, making sure that money was supposed to be moved where it was supposed to go last year before we get good fund balances to balance off of this year. And then we'll be back. We're hoping to take the budget on September 23rd, with the 30th that is like a fallback if we needed to call a special meeting for whatever reason. Do you guys have any questions for me?
So, when's it gonna come to the board?
The 23rd.
And you can go all over it one day?
We're gonna do a lot of budget meetings prior to that, hopefully.
Yes.
So we'll have a lot of those conversations in those budget committee meetings as opposed to having it as much in the hearing. The hearing's going to be more of like where we were, what cuts we made, this is what our budgets look like. So most of that should be done and those conversations should already be had. And we encourage the board to participate in those meetings prior to, so that there's a little bit more of a informal back and forth with the department heads to really understand what their requests are, and then to be able to come back and present exactly to the public what our budget is, why we did it, what we have in it, and make sure that it's all squared away.
Yes, Mike?
Those budget meetings, do you have those kind of dialed out on the calendar yet, so we can kind of know if we can make it? Because I'd like to be there for those.
Yeah, don't have them yet per se. We're just working on calendar stuff. I would like to do them the second and third weeks of
September, really with all of the work being done in the second week, and just coming back for final summary and cuts on the third week.
Are you thinking like a couple hours a day on those dates?
Oh,
or
they'll be full days.
Full days?
Yep, we'll bring those departments in and we'll
Awesome.
try to spend full days with them, get all of their requests so that we can get as much done in one time, and then be able to come back and have those conversations again and be done.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sam.
So your goal is to, I'm sorry,
No,
you
go
had
ahead.
your hand
No,
up.
no.
No,
No, please.
that was rude of me
No.
and you, go.
Well, looking at the calendar, September 17th, 18th, and 19th, I personally won't be here because that's RCRC.
Yes.
And hopefully the CAO gets to go down to that for part of that as well.
I'm hoping we don't need to go into that third week at all. We just have it open if we needed to.
Okay.
That's
And
good.
then my other question is, if you're gonna have your budget committee meetings, it's only been 2 supervisors in the past, because if you have more than 2 there, well, then it's an open public meeting, so then you have to have one of the third of them to pass it. So, I mean, that's my other question there, that's why I was asking if you're gonna have the regular budget committee meetings, and then have an extended one out after that, the 23rd, 24th, if maybe for the full board.
You
I mean, that's,
guys can request whatever you'd like. I am just at the service of the board.
I would prefer something like that, to have your regular budget committee meetings, and then come back the 23rd, 24th, you know, extend it out after that with the full board, with the full public. That's how I see it working better, other than to have, otherwise you're gonna have public meetings on 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th,
And you guys are more than welcome to run a longer public hearing if that's what you guys wanna do. The cuts, to make those cuts are really difficult to go back every single night and try to balance again. So if we're waiting to take a good amount of our requests or a big amount of our changes to that drop dead date, then it's really gonna limit our abilities to work with that. So our staff would go back all night long, which I'm already doing, and sit there and have to try to go balance the budget and reprint everything so that it's readily available to the public. So that's why we've tended not to do the longer hearings and try to do more of that process in the budget committee meetings. To my understanding, our misnomer of only 2 board members being able to come might not be true, so we're looking into that, and hopefully we can have all the board members present for the budget committee meetings that are publicly noticed meetings. And they would have to, the other 3 that are not part of the meeting would have to more come and be kind of passive observers, I'm sure, but they would still be able to hear the information in the back and forth.
I mean, however you want to do it, I was just what I thought. Sorry.
No, it's fine, sir. But, my thought is that I want all 5 of us in there. There's at least 3 of us here that want to be involved with the budget hearings. We haven't been involved in it, and it's time that we are all involved in it, and so that we can go through and hear. It's gonna be long, and, you know, I mean, I don't want it to be where that you have to rebalance the budget every single night, if there was some way to do that. But obviously, I don't know, because I've never been involved with that, and so, but it's time that this board sees, you know, where the money, what the requests are, and how we're going to move forward. That's my request.
Definitely. The budgets take a 10-day noticing period, so if we are not able to have all the board members in the budget committee hearing or meetings, then we could always run the hearing starting on the 16th. And oh yes, can I leave?
Hey, get out your phones and shine it on Sam.
Right.
Before you leave, just say you balanced the budget.
So if we want to do that, we could potentially do a public meeting. Thank you, spotlight. We could potentially do a public hearing on the 16th and recess and come back on the 23rd if we needed to.
So we can, in this admin office, kind of play around with those ideas and then make you guys aware of what we can do.
I have a quick
Yes.
question.
Right.
Say all of us can't be there, can we set it up where the supervisors that can't be there can listen in on Zoom so they understand it better?
I've seen other people do Zoom before, and
I don't care for Zoom,
we
but
could
that's better than
potentially
not
look
knowing.
at that. It would be more Teams for us, but we could definitely pursue that as well. And we'll also have budget committee meeting minutes that people could read and catch up on as well.
So
Okay.
if more than two supervisors are gonna be there, it's a noticed public meeting.
Okay,
Right.
So there's,
All right.
and so
That's what I want.
participating remotely, we'd have to abide by those.
Okay, thank you.
And could they be recorded as well, to where the supervisor can watch it if they can't make it at that very time?
Yeah, I think that it would be a good idea to have the meetings in here, and we can utilize the OWL or Zoom or
Right.
Teams or whatever. In the past, our conference room has really been tight, and so I don't want that to be an issue, as well as we have the best opportunity to have different options depending on how we want to do it from this room.
I like it here.
So we just need to look into the
Sounds good.
standards of those things to make sure that we're in compliance.
Well, thank you very much.
So staff direction, I need, or,
We just received the report.
I know, but I don't want to, come back, on the 9th and we not have a, decision that we want, or I want to be involved with all of the budget hearings.
Let's make a distinction between budget committee meetings and budget hearings. You want to be involved with both.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I want to hear from the departments and what their budget is, how do they receive that money, how it's spent, and what, and any shortfalls or whatever that's gonna take place. I want all of that information.
Well, let's get Sam
But-
or Maury to explain.
You
In the
guys,
past- in the
you
past-
guys that did it before, that's fine, but I haven't been involved and I wanna be involved.
I know, but I'm just saying, just for clarification for everybody. So Sam or Maury can explain how we've done it in the past, we just had a budget committee. And then we come back to the full board. You're talking about a budget hearing, and so if you guys could discern the difference for the rest of the board between a budget hearing and a budget committee meeting, so what is being proposed?
The budget committee meetings are the meetings that we're required to have prior to passing the budget. So it's where we do a lot of that work, it's where we have a lot of those conversations, we talk about cutting, presentations, that type of stuff. That is then formalized in a formal budget hearing that we hold in the Board of Supervisors room.
So the making of the sausage has traditionally been the budget committee. And so that's where the department head comes in, explains their budget, asks for what they ask, or identifies what they're going to cut if it's a cutting year. And ultimately, that budget, through that committee, gets forwarded to this full body, so that they can pass a budget. In some years, there's been 3 supervisors that were very comfortable with this process, and other years, not so much. And there's been all kinds of iterations on how this works, but that's what Aaron just asked me to explain, so I did.
And who typically sits on that budget committee?
I believe it's the chairman
And the vice chair.
and the vice chair.
And all the department heads, all the departments.
And all the departments come in on their scheduled days to go over their budget. Some take, 15 minutes, and others, like the sheriff's department or public works, takes considerably longer.
And the other department heads can ask questions of other departments, right?
Our department heads actually did not like having to present in front of one another, and they requested that this year that they present on their own, in their own slots, which we are obliging to.
so one of the options that you're proposing this year is to have the budget hearing process with each individual time slotted,
No, the budget committee process with each of them time slotted.
but to have the public hearing for all the supervisors to attend, right?
We would like them to come to the committee as well.
Okay.
We're under the impression that that was not allowed, and so we're finding the clarification.
Unless you notice it as a regular meeting.
Right.
I think the paradigm, and I'm just speaking for the chairman, I think what the paradigm that Chairman Neely is suggesting is maybe that we start a public hearing at the beginning of the month and have a perpetual meeting until it's time to vote on it. Is that way that the whole board is listening to the department head and the proposed budget, and then at the end they make a decision on the budget. And I'm guessing that's what his desire is.
Yes, so, that's what I want, but it's also gonna take commitment from the, because right now, it's only Gary and I that can attend the meetings. So, Jason, do you wanna attend the meetings?
Absolutely.
Aaron, do you wanna attend the meetings?
I don't have to.
Okay. Mike, do you wanna attend the meetings?
I'd like to, yes.
Gary, do you wanna attend the
I
meetings?
planned on it.
Okay, so however that looks, there's 4 of us that would like to be in the budget
Well,
meetings.
we're just gonna call it budget hearings if that's the way that's gonna go. We're not gonna
Yeah,
call it
but-
a committee.
But 2, I wanna make sure that I will be there regardless of whatever my schedule is, but, you know, just for staff's sake, I wanna make sure that we're committed to that, so that if we only have to have a budget, committee, that we're there, but as long as all 4 of us are committed to that.
It's in September and I have a pretty full schedule. But I plan on being to everything I can. I've gotta go to CSAC.
I know, but if you can't, then that's why I'm saying that, let's make sure that
Well, I'm just
we're
letting
not
you know.
overburdening the
Right.
staff. I don't want that,
I'll
but
get with you, Sam, and show you my schedule. How's that?
Well, I think this is why there's a couple of ways to skin a cat. This is not an uncommon problem that people are, very busy in September and doing things, and so this is why this option of a committee with 2 supervisors versus the whole complement is a thing. But if you're committed to being there, we can commit to being there, and I mean, really, it's essentially the same process for Sam and staff to go through these pitches by the department heads. It's just under the different header of committee versus hearing.
Well, and you have to have a quorum.
And you have to have a quorum, that's true. And no matter what, when we get to the end of the month, like Sam said, we wanna try to get this done on the 23rd. So if there's, if we have a couple failed meetings, the 23rd is still gonna come.
Sam, just for clarification, you're talking about the 8th through the 12th and maybe the following week. If the 8th through the 12th is the committee meetings, then what do you propose for the hearing?
I was gonna do the 23rd, but we could start on the 16th if we wanted to, and then we could recess and come back on the 23rd to finalize.
Okay, or could that committee, the hearing, if it needed to, flow into, like a special meeting on the 17th or 18th?
Well, just for the record, RCRC is 17, 18, 19th. I know Aaron will be there. I'm
Alright,
slated to go as myself.
okay. Thank you.
You should adopt the budget at a regular meeting.
Which
Okay.
hopefully will be the 23rd.
so the 8th through the 12th, we'll have those those meetings,
Yes.
or hearings, or
Hearings.
hearings.
We'll start the budget.
We will start budget hearings on September 8th.
Well, we can't do the hearings on the 8th because that requires 10-day noticing, but we could start, so this is where it's getting confusing. Committee meetings are just two, it's a publicly noticed meeting, but we only have 2 supervisors that sit in that. That allows us to just do the normal agenda posting that we would, like we do for this meeting. If we wanted to start hearings are a 10-day notice requirement that's going to make us start as early as the 16th. And we could have those committee meetings be those hearings be for however many days that we needed to do that. It would roll into special meetings. So if we want everybody there, we need to hold hearings, and it's going to be pretty much a week long of this exact meeting with this level of noticing if we don't do the more informal committee meetings.
So if we got a
So
notice
our
in,
meetings aren't they 72 hours?
But
Or
the
is
budget
that wrong?
requires a 10-day notice period for people to be able to comment and read.
Got it.
so it's not just a matter of getting the notice in this week, it's a matter of having the information available.
Yes, because that is what our notice says. So if the board wishes to do the hearings instead of the committee meetings, that's fine, we just have to notice appropriately.
So we wouldn't start it until the 16th? Is that right?
If we were going to a regular meeting, yes.
A hearing, right?
Yeah, I meant the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors. But yes, a hearing would have to start on the 16th. We'd be pretty close on the 9th.
How about on the 10th? Could we start on the 10th and then go through?
See if you guys are allowed to call a special meeting if you so choose.
Is it reasonable to think we can get through all of it like in one day?
I mean, our budget hearings are really long, and by then we've pretty much made all the changes, so I just don't know. I don't know how quickly it would go. You have department heads that are gonna be unavailable for pre-existing, this is the problem, is trying to schedule so many people at one time. We have department heads that might be out during that time. We might have department heads that are in court. I mean, we do have a working DA, so she's quite often in court, which makes it very difficult to get her into a room, which is why we normally do it in a week to be able to give her some leeway with that.
Oh, no, it's
So it will just be based on staffing and who can show up and how many people you'll have there, and then how much discussion we want to have.
Is it possible to get general fund done in one day and then HHS on a separate day, or is that reasonable?
HSS largely stands out by itself with the exception of 4 units that do get general fund contributions, so they're pretty easy to balance. It's the general fund and the public safety departments that are the hardest to balance, because if the general fund's doing well and public safety's in the hole, the general fund's giving money, so that's a very delicate balance because they so intertwined. But we could definitely try. We're just still really waiting on those fund balances, so I can't balance anybody until I know exactly how much money we have in the bank, so I know exactly how much we need from each place.
If I got any other questions, I'll just reach out to you guys.
I don't know, personally, I think, guys, the easiest for me, that's been through this, if you guys go ahead and have your regular budget committee meetings, then we have an extended budget hearing on the 23rd, and we extend it out to the 24th and 28th. Just plan on the 23rd and 24th to give department heads, if they can't make it on the Tuesday, they can be on the 24th. And just have a 2-day budget hearing process to pass the budget, special meeting on the 24th. And then if an extra supervisor wants to go to the budget committee meetings, they can go and just sit there and watch this, and they can't participate.
Yeah, if somebody wants to go, can I speak?
Sure.
I have to agree with Aaron on this because of the time frame, and there's some of the meetings I can't make. Mike, if you wanna go in my place, I'd welcome you to it.
You know, but once again, you know, it boils down to every year, October 1st, we gotta have this budget done. Oh,
Let's plan ahead for next year.
Every year we say we're
yeah,
gonna start a lot
let's
earlier.
plan ahead, let's
We
plan
did
ahead.
start at the
It's
first
not-
of this
It never
year.
happens.
It,
Well,
it
not
is
without
always well under
trying.
control. Yeah, it's-
Oh, no, I know you guys tried.
Don't worry,
But-
Tyler will fix that.
well, that's the other thing, trying to get everybody in Tyler as well, trying to balance in Tyler versus the way that we've always done it. So I'm trying to do a hybrid this year for you guys. We've obviously had a lot of staff turnover, which has been very difficult for us. You know, everyone wants to take vacations in the summer. That's been very difficult to try to get all, you know, this is a lot of people trying to get them all in one room when they're, you know, trying to go out and spend time with their families. That's very difficult. We're hoping to streamline this process. I wish we could get done a lot faster. I would have rather be at the budget committee meeting right now, but it just is not how it has been working. The audit's been really hard for us. Trying to get those numbers in the fund balance has been difficult. We have a lot of new department heads and fiscal officers that we've been having to handhold and train along the way, to no fault of their own, but just simply teaching them. So it's just been a lot. It's very difficult to try to get all of this together.
So you've heard the options.
So, are we satisfied?
No,
No, you guys have
No,
to
we
give
had-
an answer.
I
got some competing.
I still want a hearing.
We're gonna have a hearing.
Yeah.
We're gonna have, we have
Hearing's
to have
required no
a
matter
hearing.
what.
Well, yeah, you're gonna have the hearing on, you want the hearing on the 23rd. That shoved down our throats, no.
No, I didn't say that. I said, have the hearings on the 23rd and 24th.
And the 24th, once again, 2 days to shove all that information down our
And
throats.
that was
No.
my suggestion. You don't have to do it, I just thought that was a suggestion.
You would be going to the committee meetings anyway, right?
You're gonna be going to all the committee meetings, aren't you, Tom?
Yeah, the
I
committee
am,
meetings
but
are
what
about
about the other
Only two
people
are allowed.
that want to
A third
go
can sit there
and
and not say that.
participate?
Well, I kinda thought we were talking about having the hearing on the 16th, so that we could digest the material and, you know, maybe vote it on the 23rd, but I thought the 8th through the 12th was the committee stuff, and then the 16th was proposed as first public hearing date.
Is that doable, Sam?
Yeah. It's just me. Sam will figure it out.
Exactly.
She's
So
magic.
that seems like the best compromise for the different wants I'm hearing.
Well, so we'll have committee meetings the 8th through the 12th. The first public hearing will be on the 16th, and then we will adopt and have the second public hearing on the 23rd.
Hopefully, and then if something happens, there's another Tuesday, right? Can't see the calendar.
No,
No?
It's
23rd
the
is last
30th.
Tuesday. Well, we could have a special meeting.
well, 30.
But you can't adopt it as special meeting.
I like the idea of two public hearings, the 16th and the 23rd, and the 8th through the 12th. I like that idea.
That's fine with me.
And we can, record or Zoom or do something with the committee meetings so that the other supervisors can look at them and see them.
Please, yeah, just in case. So we like it, Liz?
That works
I'm
for me.
happy with that.
Yeah.
Mike, are you?
Yep.
Gary, are you?
Yep.
Aaron, are you?
Whatever you decide, man, I'm just.
That's a yes.
Yes or no? Yes or
I'm
no?
good either way.
You're no.
I'm good either way.
He always
He
votes
said he'd
no.
be there and he's happy.
I love it.
All right, so I need clarification for the record.
Committee meetings between the 8th and the 12th, first budget hearing on the 16th,
Hang on, 8th through 12th committee meetings.
first budget hearing on the 16th, and second budget hearing and adoption on the 23rd.
Perfect.
Second public hearing,
That beats the
23rd,
drum dead
and
Tuesday.
adoption,
Would you take that?
yes.
Absolutely.
Please. 'Cause I, there's my schedule right there. I've read it on camera. Except,
Thank you, Sam.
not once in a yet, but one of them I have to take. I gotta go finish my hearing aid. And it takes about 3 weeks to get them.
Yeah, I'm looking for that too.
Okay,
So can we turn the lights back on now?
8:06.
I have no report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I will adjourn the meeting.
Okay,